Perciò. Oh, have you just write on the board? Okay. Cool, thank you. Thank you. And a pen.
Should be pens and stationery books. Which is
not here.
for sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
And is that for both sessions?
Yeah, I'm gonna use the same one. I'm gonna keep it open the whole time,
Okay,
so that
awesome.
nothing goes.
Cool.
Yeah, but obviously the recordings I'm gonna cut.
No problem. Thank you.
You can just double check if it's right, but I double checked in my email as well, so it should be
Okay,
right.
awesome. So is there a slight delay?
catering or crockery or anything am I supposed to be setting up there?
I have no idea what they're bringing.
I've heard nothing at all. So
Maybe just drinks. If we don't get anything, then at least we have
I'll
something
bring
to
drinks, and
drink.
if they have their own, then I won't. They don't, so then I'll just bring food.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Okay, so, good afternoon. Welcome. Be here. You're welcome to take a seat. So I'll start explaining. To close this. Mark, if you don't mind sitting here, let's go about the camera. I'm going to explain in a minute.
Sure.
Thank you. Maybe that's set up. I know. So my name's Yani, which is right. See, they never make a name tag for me. Right there. It's and I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourself in a minute. So this is a research project that is going to happen Well, it started now today here with you, but for the United Nations, the head of the UN, the Secretary General, wants to decide what he needs to prioritize in the next 25 years. So he wants to do research like this all over the world to ask people their opinions and what are the most important issues to focus on. So we've got a list of questions that we are going to use in that study when that study officially starts. So this is really a dress rehearsal where we're testing our questions all over the world. We've got just 2 groups in every country. So it's this one and one after this tonight to see if we are asking if our questions are optimized and if it works and if people
So
are
it's a
able to-
pilot.
It's a pilot, exactly, yeah. But thank you so much. Thank you. Can we maybe switch on the aircon?
Yes, if possible.
No. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, so my colleagues who are running this project are in London. There's just one colleague that I think is going to view, but she's watching online live. She hasn't logged on yet. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to, but she's watching us from there. And then we would also like to ask your permission to record the video because we need to analyze this and give feedback. Thanks, Jen. Thank you. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Adjust.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, okay, cool. I'm sure we'll get better now. Okay, so that's it. That's everything from my side. Anything from your side? Any questions?
Do you need to sign any consent?
No, you should probably have that. But you just gave your consent now verbally, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I can see I'm talking to professionals here.
I was a
I see.
I'm a principal investigator in clinical trials, so that is
There we
more.
go.
That is more. You cannot.
Yeah, there you
because
can't take
you draw
shortcuts.
bloods.
Oh my goodness, yes.
That's hectic.
Okay.
So usually we have to sign consent.
Sign forms.
Even this part we have to have it on record that we said yes.
Okay.
Participant 1, I say yes, 2, and all of that.
Okay.
And you can see this is a bit chilled.
Yeah. No, for sure. Especially since this is just
It's a pilot,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm doing this pro bono, the venue also, everything is pro bono. So
problem.
it's just to see if we're on the right track, but we'll get your feedback. So if you could start, please, to introduce yourself, each of you. Tell us where you work. I know you all have organizations, I think. So what exactly you do. And then also if you can tell us a bit about your family members, your circumstances, just so that I can get to know you a little bit. Anyone? You can start. You've broken the ice. So.
Do you want our names as well?
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Khatlisho Manenje. I work for Action Break Silence as a South African program manager.
Oh, okay. That's the audio file. So this is the first group in South Africa, which is very good. I think this is just the background.
Yeah.
Action Break Silence.
Yes, I work for Action Break Silence. And family-wise, I'm married with 2 children, a boy and a girl.
How old are they?
7 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So small. And what does Action Break Silence do? Just in one sentence.
So it's a charity organization working in primary schools for girls and boys. We teach girl children how to create boundaries and build self-love, and also we empower them using self-defense. And for young boys, we teach them how to break stereotypes, how to also self-love and creating boundaries as well. So we're just trying to combat gender-based violence, and then we understand that we have to start at an early stage so that by the time they grow up, they already, have let go of all of those societal ills and norms.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, my name is Isaac Mkize. I don't have a family of my own.
Yeah.
I grew up on the organization that I'm working on right now, which is Ikahedeli AIDS Ministry. I was a beneficiary, and then I was brought up by the lady who founded the program,
Yeah.
Mom Carol. And since I've been growing up, and then I decided to join them because of when I was at home, I used to be employed but not employed, do the work for her while I'm at home.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I decided that I have to be
Officially
present,
part of
yes, in the office, and since then I've been present there.
Okay.
At currently moment, I'm doing marketing and social media for the organization and making sure that they are aligned in terms of their branding, and I also do like office management when they need, like when board members need certain things to be done, and then I will be making sure that or if the administrator of the organization doesn't understand certain things, I will be the one who will be doing that. Our organization, it's an organization that is helping orphan and vulnerable children and child-headed households who have been affected by HIV and AIDS. So we've been in existence since 2001, and we have legally registered in 2005. So we've been we are turning 20 years next year. So yeah.
Wow, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Mark.
So yeah, Mark Rousseau. I've got 3 kids, David, Daniela, and Joshua, 18, 16, and 12, and been married 23 years.
Wow.
We run a packaging business, packaging and PPE, so I'm directly involved with sales and one of the pastors here at Real Life Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want you to think of today's discussion, think more in terms of your role here as a pastor and as a businessman.
Okay.
Okay. So just for the purpose of this group today.
Sure.
Okay. But it's incredible work that you guys have. Maybe you can just tell us a bit about the church, just so we know
Okay.
what you do here.
So you're talking about actual outreach and stuff that we do?
Yeah.
All right. So we've been working in Windsor West, which is close to Cresta Centre. We've been working there about 3 years. We kind of started we actually approached local government to say we want to get involved in the community, and we actually suggested some of the things going forward, and then Herman Mashaba came on board and said they were going to roll out a whole cleaning program around the whole city. So that's how we started, just cleaning up the streets in Windsor West. We did that once a month for quite a few months, and then I'll say by accident, but obviously God led to kind of came across a old dilapidated, broken down building and discovered there's about 60 homeless drug addicts living in this building. So we kind of adopted the guys. I've been working with them for the last 3 years, together with local government that came on board in the area. So we just, really love on them. We kind of do an outreach to the guys. They're all living on the streets, but with the one assessment center, they come there once a month. We fix their showers up. So the guys can come there and shower and get food, and they've got social workers there now trying to get the guys back with their families and trying to get the guys IDs and trying to get the guys jobs and all that type of stuff. But so I'm involved there quite a bit because I live close in the area.
Is that close to Cresta?
Very close to Cresta, yeah.
Okay.
So generally once a month we do an outreach there where we provide the food, we pay for the food. We have guys from the church that are involved there we collect clothes. So it's basically getting the guys clean, giving them toiletries, the guys have a shower. We try and clothe them as best as possible.
Come in. No problem. Oh, we've got snacks. Right.
So we try and feed the guys, clothe them, and then obviously speaking to their lives from a spiritual perspective.
Thank you so much.
But more than that, a big drive is to I try and get the guys through private rehab, which is the big thing, where most of them need to start off just to come clean. And
help yourselves, please.
To try and help the guys find work. So that's pretty much what we do sort of in Windsor, and then in Hillbrow, we started there. We've been going in there for about the last 2 years.
Hillbrow, so that's
in the city centre. Well, Hillbrow and the sort of surroundings. So also work a little bit with local government there and another organization called MES. So we go in at least, well, at one point we're going in 4 times a month. But for the last year we've been going in, I've managed to get some of the other churches involved. We're going once a month and we do like praise and worship and just prayer and prophecy sort of over the city. So the guys, this organization made their rooftop of one building available to us, so it's amazing. So we can see over the whole city, and so we pray and worship and kind of prophesy over the city and the nation from there, and then we go out onto the streets. And again, predominantly drug addicts, sadly, but most of the guys living on the streets are. And then the Lord also led us to a whole group of prostitutes. There's probably about 120 of them that we also go and encourage and minister to and try and help them get jobs. Most of them really don't want to be doing what they're doing, but many of them have got little kiddies, and so it's the only way that at this point they can make money. So unemployment's a huge problem.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's
Thanks
pretty
a lot.
much what we do.
Thank you. All of you are doing such amazing work, so thanks for that. Just from all the other people, I'll ask thank you. So today's discussion, we want to ask you firstly, and I know only this one question can take up 3 hours, so just quickly, just from the top of your mind, which aspects of life in your own culture are working really well and which are working less well at the moment? So which aspects of your culture are working really well at the moment and which are struggling? I know culture in South Africa is so multi-layered and all of that, but let's see.
I just want to understand the question first. Culture, do you mean, let's say, I'm Pedi, and we've got a certain culture in doing different things, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. I'd say for me is the whole Ubuntu culture that we have, to say that, you know, my child is your child, my food is your food, and my home is your home.
Yeah.
So, back in the village where I grew up, we don't necessarily have issues like what Mark is explaining, where people are on the streets, we don't know whose children are, we don't know where they come from and how they got there and what exactly happened to
You
them.
don't have that kind of
So in the villages, we don't have those kind of issues, because the minute somebody's mother sees you doing something that is out of line, they call you back in. Even if your mom is here in Johannesburg as a maid for someone, you still have many other mothers, many other fathers, many other uncles going around. So, and that has been, it was sort of tightened by people moving to Johannesburg to look for work. So it became very normal for us to be raised by other parents that are not necessarily our own biological parents, because we understood that these are all the parents we can ever have, because ours only comes maybe twice a year. So it got so normalized for you to be reprimanded by somebody else who's not necessarily your biological family. So I think that's what is
one thing that's working really well.
Yeah.
A community raising every child. Okay.
Okay, I came here, I was not born from this province, I was born in Northwest. So I came here through the foster system. So I get puzzled when I get here, because there are a lot of things that I don't even understand until this date, because like I've been here like over 14 years. There are certain things, the kind of lifestyle that they are that is being adopted here in Johannesburg, that I sometimes I get scared that back at home you will never find a child roaming around the street not going to school, but you will find them here. So, and police, the police system and the government system, like a social worker will pay attention to the child's needs, that they will make sure that a child's child support grant is going to the child. But since I came here, it's kind of like a different shock, because of you find different cultural diverse lifestyle and things like that. So for us, because we are here in Johannesburg, we need to kind of like come up with ways in how to resolve it, in how to commune all the cultural diversity and try to include each and every person, and then so that we can come up with solutions, because of people, most of them, they come from as far as Maputo, they come from as far as Mpumalanga, coming to look for work.
Yeah.
And then when they get retrenched or fired, or they don't find a job here because someone has promised them work, and they become destitute. So it's not like, so sometimes it's because of the culture that they have developed here. It's because of a survival culture. They want to survive. They want to, they don't know, like someone will be coming from home without being a thief. They will learn how to steal from here. They are taking drugs because it's cold. They don't have a shelter where it's warm. So drugs will keep them warm and will make them to forget about their circumstances, because of their dealing with them every day. Even though I can come and motivate them and say, no, I used to live in the street as well. I come from the foster system, but their reality, they're still there. They will, when you get out, never speaking to them, they still going back to the same places. So I learned that since I'm in Johannesburg, that when I want to solve the issues of people who live in Johannesburg, I need to solve them in the most emotional, intelligent way. Because I always say you need to have emotional intelligence to be able to help someone who has issues that you don't understand. For you to be able to understand them, you need to understand their emotional capabilities. Where are they in emotional? Yes. So
sure.
It's like the culture for me here. I would put it that way, because of, for an example, if ever you take someone from the street and put them in your home right now, 100% they're going to steal for you. They're going to do something that will make you to say, I'm no longer doing this kind of work. So the best thing is to kind of like build those shelters for them where they are far from you. You are helping them until they are okay here, because of mentally they are still surviving. Like for an example, there was a child whom they take them from street, and then they put them under Kaya Center, to the orphanage. So that child, each and every time when they dish up for her, she will put the food under the mattress, because of they are used to saving the food for tomorrow. That they're going to chase me out, so I need to make sure that I have enough food. So at the time they will see the food like it's rotten, there's a certain smell, and then they will ask themselves, no, when I get chased, at least I will have food.
Yeah.
So those kind of mental illnesses that we need to minimize before we can say this work from there in Northwest.
It's a very complex rehabilitation process. I'm sure you also have the same kind of experiences.
Look, the city's a whole different monster completely.
What is the difference? So it sounds like outside of the city there's more communal living, there's more traditional values, there's more healthy people. And then coming to the city, you're isolated.
It seems to be. I mean, even with what you were saying, we have a lot of the guys in the city who are actually, so a little bit different to your story, but a lot of guys from Soweto, different places. I mean, we've got ladies coming in there from all over South Africa, even people from Durban, Cape Town that are coming to Joburg to look for work. And then you got the whole, the rest of Africa, all foreigners coming into the city. So the city is like such an incredible mix of culture.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the whole of Africa literally in one city.
Yeah.
But some of the guys we found in Windsor and in the city have actually been kicked out of their community. So a little bit different to where you're saying, where I'm not saying that they haven't had that in the past, where everybody's kind of helping out to raise kids in this, but some of the guys cause so much havoc through whatever, theft, stealing, rape, murder, different kinds of stuff, that they actually get ostracized by their communities as well. So a lot of those guys are fleeing into the city, and then even though they get some help with social workers and stuff, they're afraid to go back because they won't be accepted back into the, you know, that's on a minority scale, but that is what actually happens too. I think to answer your question, it's such a, one can look at it from so many levels, you know. If you're talking like you're saying about our particular culture, so for me, for example, as a white middle-class South African, can look at it from that perspective, but then there's also so many other perspectives, as I said, looking at South Africa as a rainbow nation, but as a rainbow culture. I think it's just, I mean, we can talk for weeks on this.
So what are the big issues?
So I think for me as a white middle-class South African, I think what really works, that I see working in our culture is, I think where families are whole, I'm not saying necessarily without issues, but where parents are still together, they're not divorced, kids are obviously having an education, and they're living in a safe, loving environment. I just think that has such a positive influence in culture and within society, and the negative side to that is obviously where there's a downfall in families, where there's divorce and all of that kind of stuff. It breaks down the whole family structure, which I think has huge implications on the kids, but as well as on the parents. You know, so for me, I think that's in the white culture. I think divorce is huge, and sadly, it's just almost as much in the church as it is in the rest of everywhere else. And I think once the family structure breaks down, I think that's where it leads to a lot of these other issues that come about, you know.
So what would you, I know this is now the golden $1 million question, is how do we improve on these issues? What should ideally be done to improve these issues?
Okay. I would say that when I speak in the most disadvantaged communities, we have neglected mental health for a long time. That it's a white thing, and we have made it as a taboo that we don't talk about our feelings. Like boys, at a very young age, they are told not to cry. And how can a person who grew up and who became a human being and have tear ducts, and you are telling them they mustn't cry, they are not allowed to cry. They are not allowed to show affections. Like it goes in line with even when they have to show love to their wives. It's kind of like when they reprimand their wives, it's how they are loving them. So it's only minority in terms of who are knowing that this is love, this is how I treat a woman and things like that. So mental illness, it's a wide issue in the black community. If we can start there, we'll be able to solve a lot of things, because rapists, they don't rape because they want sexual pleasure. They are raping because there's something in their mind that is pushing them to that has created that monster who is constantly want to fix the void that they are feeling. Maybe they want attention. When you are a child who grew up in a very disadvantaged household that doesn't have structure, you live in a child-hated household. You hate from the ages of 12. What you know is to be a parent. You don't know how to be a child. So when you grow up, your childhoodness is coming up, and then you want to be naughty when you are 40, and when you should have been naughty when you were 12. It's like that. So mental illness is it's a huge thing. You would find someone killing their wives for nothing, like just because they are angry. It's a very huge thing. If you and 8 or whoever, like funders who come from abroad and want to give aid to South Africa or to Africa as a whole, they need to start their mental health.
Mental health, so equipping the individual to cope with his
Yes.
own circumstances.
Yes.
Okay, sure. How do we solve these big issues that we're facing?
And I think I'm just going to go back to what I started with about the root issue, and I'm going to connect to Mark as well. So, as he said, in these communities, we only know perfection. So,
No perfection.
yeah, we know perfection, we know the system that works. We don't know how to react when the system doesn't work. So if there's a child with a problem and they rape or they do something, we really do what he was saying. We cut them out, we march as a community, and then we don't want them in the community anymore. And that's when they come to the cities and they start, they feel lonely, they miss home, and then the problems becomes bigger. So as much as there's a beautiful thing about Ubuntu, the thing is connecting to Isaac. It doesn't really have, especially for us blacks, because we don't recognize mental health, it doesn't have solutions that go deeper to question what could be a thing that this person is going through. We just know this is the right thing that you should be doing and you didn't do it and then you must go. We don't ask ourselves, why did Khatisho do this?
Yeah.
What happened to Khatisho for her to do this? You know, there's no flip side for us. It's just one side of the coin. And just to add to that, I think as the black community as well, there's so much pressure, and I think maybe even for whites, there's so much pressure on a man that I could be the same age with my husband, but he's expected to have certain level of finances. He's expected to have certain level of, you know, mental coolness and not snap and but I can be able to express myself, like he's saying, I can be able to cry, I can be able to do this, but he's not allowed by the society because he's seen as weak the minute he starts to cry and express himself. Even if your mother had to pass away now, people don't expect you to cry. You must just be strong and make sure that everything goes, you know. And you sit and you wonder, you have a son, and then you are not letting them cry because they are a sissy if they cry. That son meets me, and then we want to date, and I expect that person to now be able to communicate. How? Because he was never taught to communicate, he was never taught to feel, he was never taught to be emotional. So those are the things for me that causes all these issues. Because first of all, if you grow up in the village like me as a boy, you are expected not to cry, to be strong. You must just go and hit the cows and then come back and then be strong and do all these things. So there's already pressure for you physically so as a boy. And then when you grow up, there's pressure for you as a man who must now have financial stability and all of that. So all those things put so much pressure on a man, and I feel that there is, as much as we need to take care of mental health, I cry for the men. Like there is even a bigger need for males, because if you look at things now, there's always a bring a girl child to work. There's always Women's Day and women's events somewhere. Women are becoming so modern, but we are leaving our men behind. We already left our men in terms of emotional and mental health, but now we are even leaving them further because we are upgrading these women. We are making them modern and they know all these things that they want. So they're becoming powerful and they know what they want and how to do things and how to speak for themselves. But who am I going to communicate with at home? Who is going to be my colleague at work? The same men that we're leaving behind. So me, let's do something for the men.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still on our introduction, and I'm just oh, it's 24. Okay. So, what do you think are the issues that are the major concerns at a global level which need urgent attention?
HIV and AIDS, gender-based violence, and job unemployment and inequality. Like when I speak of inequality, I'm going to go back to what Khatisho said, that they're saying that like now, the now government says that women were disadvantaged before. I always tell people when we are dealing with things issues that affect one gender, we should include the other because you cannot solve an issue isolating the other because there will be a conflict. Because I cannot say no, I want to empower women, but I don't empower men. Who is who in the who? Because we will have empowered women, but we will have frustrated men. It's like that. So I'm just corresponding to that we need to make sure that like your gender-based violence, when you speak about gender-based, there are men who've been sexually abused. I'm one of the people who have been sexually abused, but there are not a lot of noise about men needs. It's only one organization in South Africa that works. It calls Samsons, and it's a small organization, just small in Marshall Street. It's very small, but it's always women. They're not asking themselves why is this man are very angry and all. A serial killer who used to kill women in Soweto. The story behind it, they said that the teacher, who was a woman, will always look at him and said, you look like a baboon. Every day, you look like a baboon, you are ugly, you are not supposed to, you are a monster. And he made sure that he killed each and every woman. When they asked him, he said, I remember when I was this little.
So where does that come from? Where is that man again harmed originally? And how do we
solve that?
Yeah. Okay, so global issues. Other global issues that you think need to be addressed of global concern?
Global warming is, I think, a massive one.
Climate change.
Absolutely.
You're working in plastic and packaging.
Yeah.
So I'm sure, what?
Yeah, I look at this whole thing in Australia with all these fires and attributing a lot of the fires to the actual whole thing on global warming and what the impact that has on society. And I mean, there's how many hundreds of towns burned down, families destroyed, businesses.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge one to tackle.
Water.
And
sanitation.
My interest is food. I went to an agricultural high school, so I've always had that interest because I just feel like the food that we eat now is so different from the food that we used to eat. And as much as we don't really think about it a lot or pay attention to it, I feel that it also contributes to our health issues. I mean, there's all of the dirty air and the water and everything that is happening, but a lot of it also comes from the food that is genetically modified, that is injected so much with hormones and all of these things that we can mass produce and all of that. So that's one of my
big things. Okay. And do you think these issues would be, do they have a scientific or a political angle? Or a different angle?
No, I would say political.
So the issues you mentioned were more
yes,
social.
They are very political because I always say you cannot elect political appointees who are not qualified to do the job. Imagine a minister of social development doesn't know anything. They've never studied sociology, but they are a minister of social development. How are they knowing about it? They don't even have humanities studies. They don't have anything that shows that they have basic learning in how to solve things that are socially based, but they are being made a minister. So I have a problem with that where government politically, because of the political party chose a person because of the political the political organization won the election. It shouldn't be like that. Everyone must apply. The only person who they can do that is the president. And then each and every person, like a minister of police, should have the background of in police and knowing the structure and all of that, how to use a gun and things like that, so that they can be able to channel our country in the way that it should go, because I really don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah. Mark?
So it was political.
So would these big issues be a scientific or a political problem?
I think they're both. I think for me, one of the most fundamental issues in the world on a national scale is actually the condition of the heart of man, to be honest.
The heart of man.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, it doesn't matter whether you're a politician or who you are, just a person. I think if people's hearts don't change, if I look around the world, I think racism, hatred, all of those things are still fundamental issues. And I think a lot of that leads to things like war and all those type of things. Because if you have hatred in your heart, to me, it's unless a person's heart is changed, nothing changes.
Yeah.
You know.
So, what would so in 25 years from now, it's the UN 100th birthday, 100 years old birthday. So, 25 years from now, what would you like, what would your ideal world look like? 25 years, let's start with you.
Sure.
Your ideal world.
Well, obviously, hopefully, changes to climate and things we've discussed, cleaner air, cleaner water, all those types of things, nutrition. I think if I just think of South Africa as a whole, I mean, definitely every person having the opportunity to have a job. I'd love to see, every person just being able to thrive in society and be earning money. I think kids with education, every person should have the right to education and be able to be educated. I'd love to see racism totally eradicated from our society, where as a culture, as a whole, even with the foreigners in our nation, we can all live together in harmony and peace without corruption. When kids and people feel safe again on the streets or safe in the parks, but not like it was in the old South Africa, like it is now, where black and white Indian together can go to parks and feel safe, not worried about being shot or robbed or just
So
people living in peace.
Thriving society.
Yeah, absolutely.
Healthy, thriving individuals. So.
And with everybody being employed, people won't have a need to, and obviously a change in heart, to kill, to rape, to murder, to steal, where people are earning money, and would think it would eradicate some of those issues. And people just feeling good about themselves, that they're actually contributing to society by being able to work, having those opportunities.
Okay. Ideal world in 25 years.
Where young people have been given an opportunity to be able to serve the country. Because now you are having the UN 2063 vision, where it's been led by older people who are going to die, and we don't know what is the strategy it's all about. We are leading them. I'm from the Young African Leaders Initiative, YALI. So we learn about those things when we go to Young African Leaders, but we are not being given opportunities for us to be able to be there in a parliament, or to head a department that will be able to will bring about transformation in certain areas. So if we can do that, what Rwanda did, the president, I think
What did he do? Just the top line. Ban plastic.
No, like the mindset of him becoming president, he changed a lot of things, where the country itself was like being told that this country will never become, but is the cleanest country in the world. So, like in Africa, is the cleanest. The public school, the public facilities are good. Even people, they are taking their kids from private school to public schools.
Wow.
Because, and his carbon is actually young people. So I would like to see that someone who is 70 years old is not sitting in parliament deciding for young people, because young people is the largest population in this country. So why should people who doesn't understand the young people to be the one who will be telling them, oh no, they need this and they need that? It's only how many people who go to Mangau, 5,000, who are deciding our future. So I just want that to change.
Okay.
Everything will be like.
Well, that's what this project is all about.
Yeah.
Next up tonight, we're speaking to kids from 16 to 25 years old. Ideal world in 25 years from now.
For me, I think it all starts from love. It all starts from the heart. You know, I'm a proper village girl. If you see where I grew up, it's where we fetch water from the river and we make fire from the wood and all of that. We live in mud houses, that proper village. So I took advantage of how peaceful and how loving and just how good it feels to know that, you know, everybody's got my back, and how genuine people are. Because when you come to the city, you see how scared everyone is. We are in gated communities, and I've got friends who have been, you know, who have had bad experiences, whether it was being robbed or being raped or this and that. And I can see how it can damage your soul and how it can really affect you as a person. So I look at my life and see how much of positive masculinity, that's why I'm always for men, you know, because men and women can be great if they can just understand that they both are needed. No one is better than the other. We don't have to fight and compete for anything. We are all enough. So that's how I grew up. That's where I'm from, where I was assured. Not only because somebody told me, but because you live it, you see it, you feel it. You are sure that you're a woman and you can be a woman. You don't need to fight for Mark's position, because Mark is a man and Mark is going to be a man, and he knows that it's enough for me to be a man. So I don't know, you know, I wish, I don't know how, but to see a world where love persists and we don't have to, you know, the corruption and like you were saying, because it all starts there. Politicians are not going to lead from the soul. Yeah, we're not going to.
Okay. And how would that be different from the world you see today?
At this point, I want to go live in your village. To be honest, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah, for me, I think a world would be a happier place. So even the mental health that we're talking about, because some of it, to be honest, is because we are just fighting ourselves. We are in a battle with each other. So imagine if we were in an era where we didn't really need to fight each other, and we were all helping each other and empowering each other and coming up together to sit and come up with solutions. Some of this, you know, 30% already of that mental health is gone. So the world will be a happier place and people will feel empowered. And once you feel empowered, look, I grew up very, very dark, and you know the whole thing of, you know, you're dark, you're not really beautiful and all of that. But I was the most confident child because it was not even about beauty, physical beauty. Okay, fine, maybe I didn't have the physical beauty, but I felt like I had so much other things, so much depth to give. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that if we come and be like that, people won't have to feel insecure for the pettiest of things. And when you don't feel insecure, when you don't have to fight for things, you empower each other. We have so much brain running around. We have so much, you know, a lot of resources are within us, and we can do so much with that. So I just think it will be a happier and more empowered place to be in.
If you can describe a day in that world that you envision 25 years from now, what would the day be like? Just from your perspective. You would wake up and what?
Yeah, look, I think it's to wake up again. I think it comes back to, for me, the family structure where a lot of what you're talking about, where children are loved, feel empowered, or have a healthy self-identity. I think that's where it starts. So for me, it's waking up in a home where both parents are around and there's love and acceptance and people are empowered and can dream and are supported to go out and fulfill those dreams. And then to go into a society, whether it's school or workplace, where, like you say, people love each other, people are compassionate and kind and just not just selfish. It's not just about you. It's like you say, everybody has a part to play. You know, God created everyone in His image and everybody equally and everybody together. We're all connected somehow. And I think if everybody just sees the potential and the good in everybody else, whether it's at school, work, I think people will just thrive and love each other, empower each other, and cheer each other on to reach their goals and dreams. And
So let's think of one of these guys living on the street. What would his day look like 25 years from now, ideally?
ideally, sure.
Having a job.
Okay, so he wakes up. Where does he wake up? In a house.
In their own home.
In his own house.
Yes.
Okay.
And having to be able to provide for themselves and being empowered, both mentally, financially, and spiritually.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I wish. Me, I'm passionate about boys and men and mental illness because it's I feel
So
like
he
it's
gets up,
not
he's
fair.
got a. What does mental health look like? If he wakes up in the morning and he's going to his job, he's in his own house.
They're empowered
Okay.
because when you're empowered, you can empower someone. They are free from all the stresses and the cultural taboos that the society has built around them to say a man cannot cry and this, you cannot show emotions, that's weak. So, and they are free in their spirit.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing.
Okay.
Whenever someone is free in their spirit, they have a confidence to be able to plow back to the society.
Okay. So I'm just trying to answer this question. Remember, we're testing these questions. So the question is, what does a day look like? So what we're looking for here is, what does his day look like? He wakes up, he's got a purpose, a place to go. He needs to go to the job, but he wakes up in a place where he feels safe. And like you say, he's able to cope with the things that is on his day. And then he comes back and he is empowered enough to contribute to whatever community he's living in.
Yes.
Because maybe he has a family, or maybe not, but he can
Yes, he can be
look
able
after
to.
some other people. Okay.
Obviously, free from drugs or addiction.
Okay.
And for those guys, that's really the starting place.
Yeah.
The problem is without having family, the guys come back to the same place. You know, we've had a couple of guys, we've managed to, only 3 get off the streets, go through drug rehab. We organise jobs for the guys, but both of them only held up their jobs for about 2 weeks, and then they were back on the streets again. So without that whole family structure again, they've got nowhere to go to except for their friends who are still all living in that addiction, and so they just got such a hard thing.
Yeah.
They should actually never ever go back to that same place.
Yeah.
But they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So all those triggers, all the memories, all the same places
Are
there.
affects them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
So
a tough
it's
one.
a kind of a village communal life.
Absolutely.
You need a healthy community to go back to.
Absolutely. I mean, some of them parents aren't alive, so but to be adopted into family somehow, whether it's
Okay. What kind of future do we want to have created with and for our children and grandchildren? I think we've covered that. Do you agree? How do science and technology impact everyday life?
Look, I think just with having teenagers, technology I think is amazing and where we've advanced to, and I think where we're going is incredible. you know, just everything that's being developed and the pace that it works at. And I think it's all very positive, but on the negative flip side, technology can also be destructive, especially for our kids. There's a thing called, I don't know exactly what the name is, but it's actually screen addiction. And I think it's in, I don't know if it's in Korea or Japan, one of those countries, parents actually take their children and drop them off to detox. I don't know if you've read about that or read about it, but they actually detox off their screens. It's become, they call it digital cocaine.
Yeah.
And the kids have become so addicted to screens. And I think young kids are just exposed to so much more than they should be. You know, whether it be pornography, whatever, girls speaking to older guys, just all kinds of negative influence. So I think technology is positive, but it can also be very negative, especially if it's not, I don't know if I want to call the word control, but kind of overseen properly.
Yeah.
And with that comes a whole lot of mental illness, emotional problems. Kids can't sleep because of the addiction. But obviously it's very positive that you have everything at the
Yeah, I mean, you said you were the social media manager as well.
Yeah.
Is that, so there are the positive side of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And science, anything on science? The impact that science has on everyday life?
Okay, so I'm just going to touch a little bit on what Mark said about technology as well, quickly. So I think as, you know, moving from the communal to a more individualistic life and living, it also contributes to what you're saying, because back when we still, a community, would go out and walk and do all of this and the kids will be playing, but now the kids can't exactly play without any supervision and all of that. So you always want to keep them close to you under supervision. But your supervision is still meaning that you still have something to do. You still can't exactly watch the kids or play with them. You want to cook after work, you still want to do so. So you let them, you get rid of them by giving them tablets.
Yes.
And then they get sore eyes, all of these conditions with their eyes and their necks and all of these things. So it's you're trying to balance home life, but also using technology, and it sometimes doesn't really help, like he was saying. And for me, science as well, I see it with mostly girls. I'm not sure if it happens to boys as well. Like I said, I'm interested in the food that we eat, because I just see that there's a rapid growth in our children, unlike when we grew, because of so much hormones that we put in our bodies and all of that. So it's a bit of a concern for me. I still don't know how and where it's going, but really I'm alarmed by, you look at a grade 3 child and then they are already so, you know, like their body is already so mature, just because purely of the things that we eat. So.
And that again comes down to, I think, partly it's greed as well. It's money.
Yeah.
So everything's sped up through science because of demand, and it has a negative impact on society, especially from a health point of view. But also with science, I mean, some of the amazing discoveries, and especially sickness and disease, I think has a very positive impact through cancer, whatever, AIDS, all that type of stuff, you know, new discoveries, and but it almost seems like the two play up against each other. You can discover as much cure as you want, but if you're not preventing,
and again, we guilt parent. So because we are out there trying to make money, we don't have time for our children. We buy them all these sorts of. I mean, I've seen how parents will just buy this thing that you walk on, like it just drives itself, and then that thing's like 4,000 rand, and then you're listening to a USB on it and all of that. So when your child wants that, because you're never there for them, you give love in a form of money and gifts and all of that. So
Instead of attention and presence. Do you think all people are treated fairly and equally?
No.
So no, okay. This question wasn't designed in South Africa.
Again,
So what is our answer to this question? Are all people treated fairly and equally? No. So who is not treated fairly and equally? Who is disadvantaged? Or who is not treated fairly and equally? Let's just name groups of people that you think are discriminated against or not treated fairly and equally.
Well, I think you've mentioned a lot of them. I think women on their own as a race, if you want to call it that. I think equally men, possibly.
Yeah.
Unemployed, poor. I think there's no justice, too much of that. Even if you look at different classes of earning, people who look down upon. You know, if you had to compare a CEO to normal example, somebody sweeping the streets, where actually we're all as significant, you know. People's significance shouldn't come from what they do, it should be who they are. And the fact that every person was created irrespective of what your job is or your title shouldn't make a difference. You know, so I think a lot of people are discriminating against kids, you know.
Like for an example, one of my friends used to work for the Cape Town Premier, like municipality. So he used to complain that he works for a political appointee. He's an assistant to a political appointee. He doesn't even have any qualification, but they are earning like 3 times more than him, and he has like MBA. He run around doing the work of the person, and this person just come and demand and say, oh, even presentation, like the work that he deliver, he doesn't know anything about it. So it goes there. It's very diverse.
Yeah.
Or people like who are living in informal settlement. We shouldn't have people who are living in informal settlement because the government said there is an RDP, and then there are councillors within the RDP, within the ward, who will sell houses to people. Those who can't afford, they will stay there in those informal settlement, where there are no lights and things like that. And you go to our public facilities, you go to the workplace. Men, some of them would say that no, you are women, you need to shut up and do your work and all of that. They wouldn't give women a chance. Or the system will prefer women to be the ones who are leading. It's so diverse, and it's very tricky to speak about because of everyone wants inequality, but they don't understand what is equality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do countries work with one another?
Countries.
How do countries work with one another?
In terms of
Okay, so this is a difficult question to answer. We should change that.
This is very, very difficult.
Do you have any kind of sense of do countries work together or do they not? What do you think of our country?
I'm sure they do.
We do work together, like this thing that they form BRICS, but it's not working for us. It's working for people who are politically influential, who is benefiting for them. BRICS has been in existence for how long? But I've never seen anything that is saying BRICS. So it's things like that. Things are.
So it's difficult to see the impact of countries working together, but there are institutions like that who officially the answer is yes, they do.
Yes, like it's Brazil, China, and I don't know. Yeah. Something like
But
that.
it's difficult to see what
what exactly was formed.
Are there any countries that we don't work together with well?
I think we work well together with our own country.
Not sorry.
South Africa, I don't think we work
With
well
any-
together within our own country,
Okay.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. And our neighbours, do you have any sense of how we work with our neighbours?
Yeah, look, I think there are things in place. I mean, if I look at the amount of foreigners that are allowed into the nation and that type of stuff, there certainly is agreements in place. And I think even business-wise, with some exports and imports, yeah.
Okay.
But again, it's like, I don't know who really benefits from that mostly, to be honest, if it's more just the politicians. On ground level, it doesn't seem
because
to
for
seem
me,
to change anything really.
Yeah.
for me the
Can I quickly go to the video?
Sure. For me, on a bigger scale, everyone, all the countries in the world, I think it's mostly the politicians that are benefiting. And I believe that South Africans, we're one of the countries that are able, we're not really fighting with anyone and saying this one can come into our country or anything like that, or we can form a deal with a certain country. But I still think somehow it's still very high level and politicians are benefiting more than what they're saying they're going to be doing. And neighbors, I have a sense that there are certain countries that, so even on the neighboring countries, South Africa is working well, business-wise, politician-wise, with all the neighboring countries. But when it comes to the general population, I have a feeling that South Africans don't have a problem with people from Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe. Yeah, because they don't bring a lot of crime and, they generally have a big problem with Nigerians because they are known to be bringing drugs, and that is very destructive, as you could hear Mark was alluding to a big drug problem. So they generally have, the normal population generally have a problem with Nigerians.
So there are certain countries which are notorious.
Specifically Nigeria.
Nigeria has very bad reputation.
Yes.
Okay. So what kind of world will we live in 25 years from now if the global trends continue? So that's this discussion we want to have now. So do you think your children, grandchildren will have fewer or more opportunities than you had? Do you think your children and grandchildren fewer or more?
I think fewer.
Fewer opportunities.
In terms of work, I think the children that are able to go to very private schools and have the opportunities, the big opportunities now, and their parents are trying to as much to set up some trust funds and all of these good things. I think those will have opportunities. Those will be exposed to business at a young age. Those will be exposed to a lot of things at a young age.
Yeah.
But the children that currently have parents who are poor, I feel that they will have less opportunities because if you can imagine, if already my mother is working at ShopRite or McDonald's and then she's going to be soon be replaced by some machine and not have a job.
Yeah.
We're already poor as we are speaking. And then soon my father who's in the mine is going to be replaced by some automated machine and my mother is going to be replaced by another machine at McDonald's. I'm going to have parents who don't have a job.
Yeah.
And because everything is sort of bought, whether it's education or it's whatever.
You need money.
You need money. That's the reality of it. So how am I now going to be having that kind of education as a child? I'm either going to have like be very bright and get into a bursary or something, or which that is if you are from a certain I don't know how you call it, like already poverty and all of that.
The chances are slim.
Chances
So the
are
question is, if the global trends as they are today continue for the next 25 years, what will the future look like? So we're asking, will children and grandchildren have more or fewer opportunities than you had growing up? Or will they be better off or worse off when it comes to education and job prospects for now, if the current situation continues?
With my opinion, just to add on what she said, the only sector that will have people working there is the human sector. We won't have, when it comes to things now are innovated a lot of times, like they put machine of this and this and this, but people who will have jobs are going to be social workers. You name them, psychologists, pastors. Those are the people who are working in a human space, speaking to people. The machine won't be able to speak to another person.
Yeah.
So imagine those people, how are they going to work?
Okay. Do you think the next, very true, do you think the next generation will be more or less mobile, socially, economically, and physically? So mobile, what do you understand under that? If someone is mobile,
walking around and all, I think less, especially the physical mobility, because they'll be sitting and just working from the remote and with laptops, sending documents. I mean, you don't even have to walk to an ATM to withdraw money, because I don't even know if we'll need cash by then. I think things will just come to you. I mean, I have a cousin who's a pilot and working in Dubai. So he's with Emirates, and he was telling us how you order petrol, you order tomatoes, like you just order, like there, you order everything.
So you don't have to go out in the real world.
You don't have to go out.
Socially,
just if you look at Uber Eats and all these things.
yeah,
it's
there's
like-
no reason to be out.
Absolutely.
So, and if we think of social mobility,
What do you mean by that?
so if I am socially mobile, it means that I can move to different levels of society. I can better myself and become friends with more important people and more connected people. Do you think there will be more or less socially mobile?
I would say less. You know why I'm saying? Because until we deal with greed, we'll be able to conquer that. Because people are greedy. You are good in something. I rather put someone that I want to put and not put the person who is good in that thing to be able to thrive and make sure that work excellent. I think here in South Africa we have that problem. Maybe Africa, maybe in other countries they face, but personally I have seen it. South Africa we have that problem to put someone who doesn't know how to do a certain thing. Because it's someone that I favor, I will put them there.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to take a certain portion of money from that person because we are making an agreement. You don't know how to do the job. I'm going to give you a job. I want 50%.
It's all about corruption.
Yes. So it's like that. We put people who don't belong there.
Yeah.
For our own benefit.
Okay. Think of economic mobility. So, will our children and grandchildren be more able to increase in their socioeconomic status?
For me, I still think it's going to be similar to what I said about education. It's still going to be the ones that are poor now will still struggle, and the ones that can push for something now, they'll be the ones that will be able to benefit financially.
Yeah.
And the politicians, obviously, they're going to beg it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, we're just going to be, maybe there won't even be a middle class at some point.
Look, the dream is obviously for kids to, I think, be entrepreneurs and to be able to, where there aren't opportunities, come up with ideas and solutions. And so it seems pretty pessimistic at this stage that our kids don't have wonderful opportunities, but I think there are possibilities. I think there are possibilities. But if things don't change, like you're saying, I think a lot of kids will be worse off.
Okay. Do you expect to live in a more or less healthy natural environment?
More for sure.
More healthy. No, remember we said if the current trends continue, do you expect the natural environment to be more or less healthy? If the current trends continue.
I think so. I think Mark's problem is going to be even bigger. the global warming and all of that, because as much as we hear about it every day, we just think it's not our problem. It's not our being to separate paper and plastic. I mean, I go to so many houses, they still don't separate. I still don't separate in my house. And I've known this for how long? I I don't know what we're waiting for, honestly. I don't know what I'm waiting for. So if we don't change, if we don't do something now, we see companies starting up with the cloth diapers, and we like so much time. Like I rather use the one that is disposable,
Yeah.
that we know it's going to spoil everything for us. So we're so used to convenience, because all of these things came with convenience. All of the bottles that we feed our children from, they came with convenience. So we're still stuck in that convenience because we are living in a very fast-paced world. There is no time for all those diapers that we have to wash and all of that. So for me, it feels like we're going to take time to see that we need to do this. And it feels for me that we're going to wait for the day when we really see it. And that will be too late.
What do you think will that difference be? Once we can see the difference, how might that environment be different?
Okay, I would say that here in South Africa, if ever you want to achieve something, you need to make it a law. People are going to follow it. Like for an example, we knew about this thing of grade 9. When you are grade 9, eventually you are changing subject. You are going to do separate subjects. So now people think that now I'm going to have 2 certificates of grade 9, and it was always there. It was always there, because when you, like from grade 1 to grade 7, you go to high school. From grade 8 to until grade 9, you are changing the stream of subject you are doing. It's always been there. Grade 10 and 11 and 12. So people are saying, no, level 2, I can go to, if FET colleges to do maybe marketing for level 2, level 3, it's still equivalent. So it's a law, people are doing it. So here in South Africa, if ever you want something to be done, if ever it's a law, they are going to separate those plastics and whatever, because I don't want to get arrested.
So my question is what will the environment look like? What will be different if we don't address global warming or whatever, we have a global trend? What will the environment look like, do you think?
We'll get affected like what is happening in Australia right now.
Okay.
Because like maybe they have ignored it like for a very long time, and then now they want to solve it, and it's even though it's not too late, but they should have prevented it before it can be like so like it is very affecting people right now.
I think pollution was as well, and just all the plastics and stuff in the ocean, and just even landfill sites, and so it has a vast negative effect on our country. It will affect farming eventually. We'll actually go very backwards. Extremely so.
Some animals will not be seen.
And even, it's weird, like you were saying, at what point do people realize, like I think even of where we are with Eskom, if you have a complete country blackout, I don't know if that will make people actually use less lights. But it's such a critical situation already.
Yeah.
But yet you go around, people don't switch off lights.
Things that they don't use when they go, it's like that.
So we're already in crisis, but it doesn't seem to, like you said, at what point do people wake up? I don't know what the answer is, because we're in that situation already.
So I've got six areas here. Can you look at them and tell me which of these do you think would have a significant impact on the future that you want?
For positive change?
Yeah. So we now want to, if we needed to prioritize any of these as an area that will have a huge impact on the future that we hope for. So we've got climate change and environmental issues. We've got poverty and inequality.
Absolutely.
New technology, okay? New technology, then we have population changes. So everything to do with population growth, aging populations or very young populations in Africa, migrations, urbanization. So, and then security threats. So conflict and war and cyber warfare, crime. breakdown of trust between governments and between people and governments. So obviously all of these are big issues. So
Absolutely.
which of these would you say is like the cornerstone? If you address that one, everything's fixed.
We have to pick one.
Let's pick one and then we'll go, what, apart from that, what is also important?
Sure.
So we need to pick one that will eventually address all of these, or one that is very, very important.
So, would any of the following 6 areas have a significant impact on the future you want?
Mm.
Okay.
Please pick one, and then we can talk about it. So each of you just choose one in your heart, and then we'll say. Or maybe if you want to pick 2. We've talked, well, okay, let's hear it. Isaac, which one? Come on.
I would say breakdown of trust.
Breakdown of trust.
And between the government and between the people and things
Why do
like
you
that.
say that's a big one?
Me, I would say that when you are a minister, minister means servant. You are a servant to the people. So you have broken the trust of the title that you, or the job that you're supposed to do. So then, because consciously you are telling yourself that I'm serving me by being corrupt. So the trust, when it's broken with the people cannot give a feedback that you want as a president. Like for example, I would loot around because I want your attention. I would react and steal because.
So why is it an issue that the ministers are not worthy of our trust anymore? Who cares?
They have to be, because they are decision makers of the country, and the money, like when you are the minister of police, if we don't trust you and you are not trustworthy, our security, we have a security threat already, because of, we know that you are going to buy cases. When someone has done corruption, they will just go free because they are going to buy that case.
Yeah.
And when you are a minister of mineral resources, you will know that, no, I'm going to own 4 mines. It's like that.
Yeah. Can I pick up from you as well? I'm speaking spiritually, but also practically and naturally. So in the book of Timothy, it speaks about pray for those who are in authority, speaking about leaders. And it goes on to say that as the church does that we may live a quiet and peaceful life. So it's talking about societies actually looked after. And if I have to compare South Africa with, even let's just say Australia, we're talking about the fires and stuff. If you look at how government works, how job opportunities, just very little poverty, very little inequality, taxes, people pay such little taxes on their houses and on vehicles and all that type of stuff. And so society seems to work. Where in South Africa, there really is a breakdown of trust. I think the taxes people be paying just.
So if the guys in charge can't be trusted, everything is affected.
I think so, absolutely, because if they're not trusted and with corruption and their hearts aren't for the people they're serving to better life for everybody in every single area, politically, schools, medical, in every area, the police, if they're not there to serve the people and it's all for self-gain, then you can't have a country that works well.
Okay.
And I think for me it's also number 6. I was tempted to say number 1 or number 2, but when you think about it, for me it's also number 6, because I know this is not very factual. Yeah, it's not very factual, especially for the people sitting there, the government. But there is something about leading from an example. It's so deep that it won't even be about how much money does the government have. the minute they do the right things, they allocate money the right way, they do what they are supposed to be doing. Even the people themselves, they will play their role, and I don't know if I'm making any sense, but there's something that is going to wake up inside of the people to also play their role. There's not only going to be Mark and this church that is going to be going to the boys that are using drugs in the CBD, but most of us are going to be inspired just by looking at how the government is treating us. You also want to take part and make sure that things are working. So
okay, so if you're
for
proud and
example,
if you're trustworthy,
yes.
you've got a trustworthy government, you are also inspired to do your part.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we had to
No, I was going to say number 2 as well. For me. Look, obviously climate change, environmental, that speaks for itself.
yeah.
But I think for me another big one is poverty and equality as well. And again, it comes down to the heart of mankind, really, where it's not just about you and your own family, it's about everybody else in society.
Yeah.
Again, biblically it speaks about in the book of Acts where people sold houses and things that had more than others had. And it says they brought the proceeds to the church and the church distributed to the people. So it actually speaks about nobody was in lack. So I think so many people just live for themselves, and it doesn't matter if somebody is living on the streets, people just drive past. There's no heart or care for anybody else.
So if we had to advise the Office of the Secretary General, the head of the UN, to prioritize his focus to manage these issues, where would you advise him to focus? Which one?
No, I'm just checking the things that when
So why is this a difficult question to answer?
I think all 6 of them need to be addressed.
For me, it's difficult because you are now talking from the outside, because number 6 seems like it's something that, when in a family when you have to deal with your own issues. So number 6 for me sounds like it's something that we as South Africans need to deal with before somebody can even come and say, hey, stop corruption.
Okay.
And
we have to sort out number 6.
So now when you're starting to take it outside, I can now say, 1 and 2 maybe.
Number 1 and 2, climate change and poverty and inequality is maybe some kind of a priority. All right. So how can we collectively bridge the gap between the world we hope for and the world that may result if we don't better manage the current trends? So that is the topic of our next discussion. So the question is, we've now described what we hope the future will be like in 25 years. We've talked about what the world will look like if we don't do anything. Okay? How do we bridge that gap between the two? So now we've already looked at a few priorities there. What action should we take now to make a better world for future generations? So that is.
So that's the bridge you want to build.
These guys really want to solve the world's issues.
I'm telling you.
It can be done in one lifetime.
And you were telling them how to do it. Okay, let me ask it this way. What can you do as an individual to create the world we want? What are you doing for a better world, you as an individual? And now I'm talking to people who are doing something. So what can you do as an individual to create the world we want?
Well, I think one of the things is, like you're saying, being an example to the whole of society, whether it's government or whoever it may be, is by the lifestyle that you live. And I think obviously by working in accordance with the laws of the country. So being a good citizen, I think, is first and foremost. I think your life should speak for itself. And I think just having a heart for others and helping where you can. I know we can't do everything. Like you said, it's challenging enough just trying to raise your own kids, let alone help others. But I think if each person just stops for one other person, I think every single person in our country is capable, even somebody living on the street, is capable of helping one other person. Whether it also can be, don't litter, don't hurt somebody, don't rape somebody, don't steal, stop for one, feed one person a day.
Yeah. And who has to take action to manage these trends, do you think?
Who has to?
Who has to take action to manage these things?
Us, the people.
People.
Because to have a hospital, it was not the government who started having a hospital, it was the people. So all the facilities that the government have taken over now, they were built by people who started and saw a need in this community. We are struggling to get by. So someone who was a doctor, they would use African medicine to make sure that they cure whatever that. It started there, and then now we have hospitals, and it always depended on people. If ever we can go back to that mentality, that it starts with us to make sure that
so helping ourselves, people helping people because there's a need.
Yes.
So solving problems where you see it and doing what you can.
Yes.
And also just starting with, I'm not even going to talk about what we do at Action Youth Science because that's even on a bigger scale, where we go to schools and we teach in schools, and then those children go to their own homes and play with other children. So it filters down into the other communities. So that's even on a bigger scale. But just also to start with your own children, your own immediate family, just to teach your children certain morals, certain values that when you see another child at school being hurt, you don't laugh. When you see somebody on a wheelchair, you don't laugh. When you see, just to instill those kind of things into your own children, those values into your own children and all of that, it's also important because now we are growing. They're going to grow up to be adults who are responsible.
Yeah.
And
Sorry?
And then for me also, because I try to start at home, the issue of poverty, I'm going to again go back to what Mark has said about we are raising people who should be entrepreneurs and see gaps in the society and try to capitalize on those gaps and build businesses. But I have felt that we start very late, and for 2 years my daughter has been running her own business. She's now 7 and she started when she was 5. It was just nothing hectic because I didn't want to overburden her. We just started to make beads, necklaces and bracelets and all of that because I just wanted her to understand the basic fundamental business of which I didn't learn. I didn't have an opportunity to learn and all of that. I wanted her to be able to approach somebody because she was very shy to approach people. I wanted her to be able to understand that when you have a business, how does the money work? Those basic things. And also, I feel that when you start that early, by the time you're 18, you're 22, you already figured out exactly what you want to do with your life. Of which I'm 36 and I still don't know which kind of business I want to be in because I'm still at her level of saying tomorrow I don't like beads anymore, and then the other day. So when business becomes difficult, what happens? So all of those things, I just feel like we started very late when it comes to business, and it might take us back to poverty again.
Do you think business has a role to play in these big issues?
How we grow our kids, like as we are the community. When I grew up, I was taught that I have to get grades and pass and go and look for a job. When you go to India, it's different. You are coming to join the family business. And at the time you are still in school, you are learning how the business is run. So us, it's like you pass, you go to college, and then you need to find a job. That mentality, I remember Miles Monroe, he made a seminar about that, about the attitude. So we have the attitude of servanthood. We don't have the attitude to lead. That is the problem about us. We don't want to lead. When you are given a leadership role, it's like there's something, it's scary. I'm not talking about leadership in terms of a company, about your life, to lead your life the way you wanted it to be. You always want someone to push you and to kind of like show you, yeah, can you come lead? Like, I don't know how to do it. You don't do it yourself until you are very tired of trying,
Yeah.
and then you call someone and say, no, I've done it, but there's some little thing. So like poverty is a state of the mind. If ever we can teach people how they can believe in themselves, that they can eradicate poverty, I think we can have a fixed world.
Okay.
Just leading yourself, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Self-leadership, absolutely. And what forms of action and collaboration might be needed at the local, national, international levels?
What form of
Action
action?
and collaboration
Mm-hmm.
might be needed at the local, national, and international levels.
For these 6 things.
Now I would say that when UNA do like programs, fund programs, and they're coming up with programs, that's what I was like making points when we were at Yale, to say that don't go to people who are not running programs. Go to grassroots. As Mr. Mark, he's in CBD. He knows what's going on, what those people need. Don't go to people who doesn't know what the person who sleeps in the street, what they need. Go to a person who sees that person every day. They know exactly what their needs are. So it's like you are creating a program and you are giving it to people to say, this is a program. Like I had a problem with a program called DREAM that the US8 started. It failed because they never went to people, even though Charlize Theron tried. But it failed because of never went to people and say, what are the challenges that girls face? How are we be able to help those girls to be able to be at less risk of being infected of AIDS? It's those kind of things. It's very important if ever you go to the grassroots, because you are going to find the answers you need. That's the collaboration that we are like now we are doing like and then we just take this information and then we say no, they need this. We won't reach what we want to reach.
So how do you do it?
Go to the grassroots level and ask the people the non-profit organization who work at MLAS, they know exactly that these people from MLAS, they know that I slept without food and what are the things that I can do. Yeah. Those income generating, they come there. They come there. Like US PEFA would come and say, oh, we would give 300 million for income generative. This is the income generative. They don't know. Whatever that will be sold there, those people, they don't use it. Maybe you get my point. Maybe it's agriculture. Yeah. Those people, like food, they can be able. So I would say that a collaboration needs to start at the ground level. Leave the people that are there. They already have their own seat and what. If you want to help poverty and problems that we are facing, go to the people who are working, even gender-based violence. You will get to the people who live in informal settlement because of one of the 4 children, they've been raped. So they know what they're talking about. Yeah. So that's
so the then my next question is, what type of role might the UN play, and also other international institutions, in facilitating addressing these issues? But you're saying the big institutions shouldn't even bother. It's about grassroots level contact with where the real needs are.
I think
So what is
if
the-
I understand what you're saying correctly, is I mean we need those guys,
Yes.
but it can't just be a matter of having annual conferences year after year
Yeah.
and talking about the issues. They've got to. I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
Even our local government, I think guys should actually get out of their offices and go to the grassroots where it's actually happening.
Mm.
And that's where between the two they need to start collaborating. And then obviously with business, with funding,
Mm.
that's where other countries might get involved, governments, businesses. Because all of this takes money. At the end of the day,
It's money.
it doesn't matter what you say,
Mhm.
money makes the world go round. So
Yeah.
finances are needed. And
So
that's
the
where business
finances
and
come from
governments.
them,
Mm.
and it's about trying to filter as much money and influence down as possible.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think you got to start from the bottom and build it up.
They build it up.
Yeah.
Needs based. Okay. So how many have you heard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals? These things.
Education.
So these are kind of, in 2015, promises were made at the UN by 193 world leaders, including leaders from South Africa, to create a future of peace and prosperity on a thriving planet for all people. So this plan was put in place by all these governments around the world to achieve these 17 sustainable development goals by the year 2030.
Mm.
So that's 10 years from now. Okay.
Mm.
I've heard of a couple of them.
So now I want us to think about the different threats that we've already discussed today, and thinking of the context of these threats, which three of these sustainable development goals do you think are of immediate concern for you and your family and your organization?
3.
Yeah. So can I put them up?
Yeah.
So let's put them on this thing. Let's give them a turn around. So let's pick 3 that are of immediate concern for you. Can you read that? Right. Should I put them?
No, it's okay.
Okay. So no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being.
Me, I would say number 8, number 4.
So quality education, decent work and economic growth.
And then, number 50.
Life on land.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I always love that.
Yeah, life on land. Okay, which stands out to you?
Kind of 1 and 2 go for me go together.
Mm.
Poverty and hunger are basically the same one.
Um,
For me, 12.
Number 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So that speaks to your concern about the hormones in the food, how are businesses developing products. Okay.
And can choose between 16 and 17.
So
Which they were
partnerships
together.
on 17 and 16 are peace, justice and strong institutions. Okay.
It's a tough one because my heart naturally, I think, tends to lean towards people.
Yeah.
But without the climate changes,
Yeah.
without industry, innovation, and
So you need all of them.
you actually need everything, yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, you can stop hunger, but unless you
Yeah.
sort out the pollution and
It's a tough one.
it's,
No
I think
wonder they came up
that's
with
probably why they came up with
Yeah,
all of them. I think they
17.
all.
So let's say we were building a puzzle and one of these pieces go first. If that one is not there, then nothing else can work.
So the one main.
Yeah, what is the first one that needs to be addressed? But even if you don't look at them, and you just think of in general, we've talked about many things. So from our initial discussion, it feels, well, let me just wait and let you answer your own
For me,
question.
I'm thinking if that
What is
one,
the first one?
I mean, pollution and all of that, if we don't have clean water and air, we are not going to live for a long time. So
So
that
environment around us.
yeah, environment will be important. Although other things are really pressing for now,
Yeah.
but eventually if we don't have all of that healthy environment, then we're also going to extend.
I don't know, I'm going to go with 11, I think.
Number 11, which is what?
Sustainable cities and communities.
Cities. That goes back to our very first discussion
Yeah.
around community and how isolated people are less likely to succeed. Okay.
And family, and it encompasses a lot actually. Because if you have a sustainable city and community, it speaks about jobs, speaks about equality. I think a lot of stuff.
It
falls
speaks
into
about
one.
mental health. It speaks about,
Yeah.
it encompasses a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you agree, Isaac? Number 11. If we have to pick one that can have a big impact.
It's just inequality.
Inequality.
Number 10.
Number 10.
If we have to agree now, I'm breaking the time. So let me see over here. Because you want one, right?
Yeah.
Reduce inequalities, and then I'll go with 11 because I think almost all of, not all of them, but most of them, they fit into this one. So I'll go with 11.
Number 11. If we can upscale your village.
Yeah.
People who right?
Let's duplicate it.
Yeah.
Copy and paste.
Okay, great. So thinking of then number 11, if you agree, we can go with talking about number 11. So thinking of number 11, what is it?
Sustainable cities and communities.
Okay, sustainable cities and communities. Who has to take action to advance this goal in our country?
The people.
I think it starts with individual responsibility.
The people.
The communities themselves.
Government. We cannot say the government. The government is not doing anything. We are the government.
Yeah.
It's just we have how many people? 5,000 people there who are representing the country. Yes, but the people, how many something million people living here in South Africa?
Yeah.
So we are bigger than them.
Yeah. Okay. And what should the role of government be in creating this?
Trust.
Trust. Okay, so they should be trustworthy and worthy of their office. Okay.
I think government can have strong policies and all those things, but again, unless within families and individuals, if people don't take personal responsibility, I think you can have the best government in the world. But if people don't take action,
Then it's not.
it's, you know.
And again, I also think, just to add to what they are saying, there's a say in my language which I'm going to read directly translate. It says, help comes to those who help themselves. So you have to at least be trying for me to come and say, can I help you in this? So, for example, what Mark and team are doing with those boys in town, it's going to be easy for government to, UN or government or whoever, to recognize that there's something that is already happening here. How do we give a helping hand? What do you need? Do you need premises? Do you need, what kind of resources do you need? So you must at least already be trying as a community
For you
for
to be
you
worthy
to attract, you know,
attention and help. Yeah, absolutely. And the UN, What can their role be in number 11?
I think for me exactly what I'm saying, that to recognize the
Pockets of activity,
Yeah.
people
Yes.
helping themselves
Yes.
and equipping them.
Yeah, because then that way it will fit what Isaac was saying about the grassroots and people that are really understanding what is the need. Because if you come with the funds, then you find that you fund the right thing, where there's a real need. Because you can, if somebody is already doing something about something, it means that they really need something to happen.
Yeah.
Unlike you just giving me something for free, I'm just gonna take it. I mean, you're giving me. I don't even know why you're giving me. You were there, Gina Market. Isaac, you spoke about this, and then you decided for my village there. You saying that I think they need this, but you don't know if we really need it. But if we are already as a village doing something about a certain thing, it means that there is a need, and then you can come and help and identify all those gaps. You know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And the role of businesses?
I think definitely, obviously, to try and businesses that are doing well. It's again, South Africa is such a unique country. I think Sars was saying, I think this last financial year, I think only 28% of businesses in South Africa made a profit. So with a weak rand and just the way the economy is, I think people's hearts are to help and create job opportunities. But again, with I think the amount of tax we pay and people. A lot of businesses aren't in a position, which is actually scary. If 28% of companies only made a profit, they are the first ones I think people would look to try and, without people trying to start up their own businesses to create job opportunities. But so many businesses just aren't in that place to be able to do that. So the ideal would be for obviously growth within existing companies to create jobs and to be able to put finances behind projects that speak to them, whether it be poverty or helping reduce smog in the city or whatever it may be. So I think business can certainly help on various levels, but it's just scary to think what the financials were in this last financial year.
And the role of civil society? So that is people living in communities or people with similar interests, organizations like yourselves. What are their roles?
One is to educate about, like for an example, to transform the mind, the mentality that we have grown up in, that when you are a child, you need to go to school and learn and become and study a trade and go to work. Instead of you need to go to school and learn a business and also a trade. Maybe you can choose whether you want to pursue to have a business or not. Because when you are business minded, when you get into, even though you don't open a business, when you get into a workplace, there is a transformed mind that you bring into the institution that you are working in, because of you are changing things, you are very innovative, you are things like that, and you come up with things that will transform even that smaller company to become a large company, and it can employ a lot of people and things like that. And if ever we can teach our society that mental health really exists in amongst the black people.
Yeah.
Because it's a very huge issue. People, they can't deal with things. They're just keeping them here. They're angry at work. When you are saying, no, you didn't print out a document that no, I printed. You constantly ask him, now you get fired because you spoke to the boss in a very rudely manner. So that's not allowed according to the HR policy of that company or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. We carry things, we go them to our workplaces, we go to them in our institution, in our different places, even in church. Someone will get angry that an usher said, no, sit there because of we are having people. They will get very, very angry. So I would say that mental health is a very, very serious thing.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, I think we've said that it's down individuals, the role of individuals to address that is self-leadership, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I think people just need to recognize there's problems and to just actually start doing something.
Yeah.
Like if everybody does something, nothing's insignificant. I just think far too many people talk about problems and don't try and address and do something. You know?
So my last question is on this topic. What are you doing as individuals to advance this chosen goal?
Well, look, we certainly from a real life perspective is partly what you're saying, not on the
Your
mental
church's
health side.
perspective.
Yeah. But like training, obviously we train and make our people aware of the needs and issues, and trying to mobilize people within our community to actually make a difference. And other churches, speaking to other church leaders, making people aware. It's actually sad, speaking to guys who've been in the city for the last 30 years, they've seen many churches move out of the city in the last 30 years, just with a change of, how the city's changed. The people that should be there being a light and helping have actually moved out of the city. So people have actually been quite amazed that we've been prepared to go back into the city. But I think a lot of it's just training and leading by example. But again, for me it fundamentally comes down to unless a person has a change in heart. So my ideal, if you had to really say what would be my ideal, would be for revival, for every person to have a relationship with Jesus. Because I think unless your heart's changed, you'll remain selfish, you'll whatever, I think people need to have a heart change to actually really make a difference.
So I think for me, on a personal level, like I was saying earlier, sometimes you just need to start at home. I host what I call networking dinners. So this is just me and a group of my friends, come with their friends and all of that. So I identified that a lot of small businesses don't really get to make money because they can't attract the right clients, or they're doing something wrong and then the clients are not telling them, and they lose clients. So you lose clients already on small. You only have a few clients and then you lose clients, and then word of mouth and all of that. So I decided to host what I call networking dinner so that small businesses can come. We just put our products there, and then so whoever is not having a business is here. And then we have a presentation. Mark will present what he does, Isaac will present what he does, and all of that. So you're now going to get a flow of questions and comments and the challenges that the clients meet when they deal with small businesses, when they request what. So they are giving you information, but it's on a very objective level, and then you're not feeling attacked as a business person. So it's easy for you to actually grasp all these things and take them in. Unlike when you're really dealing with a client who's angry, then you're defending yourself, they are also angry. So in that setting, they are not attacking you, and they're also not angry because they're not dealing with an issue where they're unhappy at that moment. So business people who are small presenting and also selling, and then also the clients are there to engage them on that level. And then we have different themes every month. This month it can be maybe food and then mixed with a bit of health. So I'll invite a friend who's a nurse or a doctor and who's a psychologist and what, and then they also just present about maybe mental health, and then the other one will take our vitals and just talk about how important it is to live healthy and all of that. Then maybe the next month is a different theme. We are talking about different things, and even the businesses they are different. So I just realized that I've got a very big network of people, and it would be nice to just bring people together over dinner and just talk about these issues and then help each other. Yeah.
Networking is so key.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think as an individual, on an individual level, what are you doing to contribute to a sustainable city and community?
Okay, individual. What I do individually, because like I'm a gifted artist, so I have opened a foundation called Olot Upbringing Africa Community Network. So where young people can be able to voice out and address social issues through the form of art. So where we have like some of my friends, someone will record a song or someone will give a piece with theater, someone will draw and things like that. That's what I'm trying to come up with because of, and again, it's for the benefit of non-profit organizations. When they don't know how to fundraise,
Yeah.
so young people they find themselves liking to go to concerts and things like that. So when you have a network of people who are celebrities and who are gifted musically and all of that, you can use that to the advantage of non-profit organization to raise money or to do certain, like for example, I've written a song about gender-based violence, about the killing of women in South Africa.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to combine all the organization and then make a short film music video about the song. But initially I want to raise money through people, through the SMS, like you remember Shout. So that's what I want to do.
Okay.
So I'm doing that. And most of the young people are like, they used to smoke drugs and things like that. So I would speak to them and I show them because they didn't have a direction. But me, I have a background in how to put your stuff the way it should, and to be able to sell it to someone who will be able to listen. When you come, they won't be able to listen to you because they are judging you from far and say, oh, this person I cannot trust. But I have a way in how to speak to people and then people listen.
Yeah.
I have that,
that
gift.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
So that is what I do in the community
In your
also.
own.
It is.
Okay. So I want to give you a final message from the project leaders. So it's just a little paragraph I want to read. So, thank you for your participation today. There's a decade, 10 years left to deliver on these 17 goals for people and the planet. 2020 is the year we must change our course. With 5 years into the goals, we have an opportunity and an obligation to shift our trajectory and accelerate progress. And we need everyone to be part of it. A new movement is forming. Citizens, organizations, and leaders everywhere are coming together for a super year of activism to shift the world onto a path to deliver the goals by 2030. So anyone can get involved. If your organization or you personally would like to be part of this campaign, please leave your details with me. And in the coming weeks, we'll send you more information about key dates, resources, and key moments and ideas for how you can take part in this initiative. So if you'd like to have this information, you can just let me know.
Awesome.
Would you?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, I'll put your name on this. Then I have a small token of appreciation for your time from me, but I haven't prepared it. I'm so unprepared, so give me a moment. And aren't you going to have anything to eat?
We were here so early.
I know.
We went out to have burgers.
Oh no, really?
Yeah.
And me, and me
And
again.
this is a vegan sitting
Oh,
there.
I'm
vegan?
vegan, yes.
Wow. Oh, I'm so
This is
sorry.
a very huge thing.
We did not
Did you
check
know,
it for
know each
you.
other before this?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, I just wanted to say, I know your organization. I know Debbie personally.
Yes. Oh, good.
Debbie Stephen, yeah. I just think you guys are doing an amazing work. Eh? And I've just heard a bit about yours now. I think you're doing incredible work. Eh? Where are you based? Where are you based?
I'm based in Soweto.
Okay.
And most of the time I'm with my foster mothers organization because
Okay.
I'm helping them to be young people's minds, to think the way now it's thinking. So I'm making sure that things are in place and things like that. So during weekends I go to to my friends and the people, young people.
Yeah.
So it's my organization is like for between the ages of like 0 to say 35.
Okay.
Because of when someone is in that range, you can be able to tell them things, and then they will program it and do exactly what the world is expected of them. But beyond that, they are thinking, listen, no, this young man cannot come and tell me what. So it's like that. So
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
eradicating poverty.
On the 27th day of January.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thank
Thank
you.
Would you please just sign and register that outside so I can give proof to Sash that I doing it here tonight?
100%.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. 2 hours of your time.
Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yay. Let's do this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
amazing.
don't know how this information will be used. I hope it will be fruitful.
Yeah, hope so too.
Seed sowing.
okay.
Where did you say you from, or what's your?
I've got a small research agency called First Person, and I
Okay.
often use this, well,
Okay.
only that use this venue as
Okay.
Alison's business.
Okay.
So,
I will hear from you. Me, I like talking. And I'm talking facts.
no, you are. You're very impressive. I'm so glad to have met you and
I
to
love
have heard your
research.
story. Yeah.
Research is my first love, so if it was during the day, you were going to chase me out.
Really? Oh, sure. Thank you.
I've been talking so much, so
Let's just get us,
just need to sign.
What is this? It's money. It has to that it's money.
Great meeting you. Thank you.
Isaac, I'm going to jail and tone. A black. I'm going to jail black.
no, it's raining.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself to us, but just sit while I put my phone on silent. There we go. Okay. Yeah, in the rain, and here you are. Changing the world. Thank you. So, just to explain, this is a research study for the United Nations. The head of the UN, the Secretary General is what he's called, has commissioned research to understand what his priorities should be. So this study is all about piloting our questionnaire. So that means you are the...
Currently, I'm starting my own business with my father, so I'm self-employed, and yeah, that's pretty much me.
Okay.
I,
Why are you in South Africa?
At the moment,
Yeah, if you are
you'll find
Bulgarian and Indian,
this very interesting.
Chinese.
I actually I was competing in the Hulk Prize. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. So the Hulk Prize is the world's largest student entrepreneurship competition, and we went to the semi-finals in Dubai. It's actually for the United Nations. You know, they have the 17 SDGs, and this year's was youth unemployment. And basically, what happened was we had a very good idea, and our university decided they wanted to fund it. But my father said that we have a very good opportunity here to do something, and so I decided this is more worth the effort than what I would have otherwise been doing there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of business is it?
It's in the cannabis industry.
In the
Cannabis industry.
cannabis industry. Wow. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you guys.
Hi everyone, my name is Pumulani Nduli. I'm a second year vet student, actually my third year at vets, but studying my second year. I am from a township called Soweto in the south of Johannesburg. And Yeah, basically I stay with my mother, unemployed single mother, and basically I'm a student, and I think that's one thing I'm really passionate about, and think that something or what I see as the problem within society, the access to education. So that's one thing I usually work around. And yeah, I'm one of 4 kids. My sister is graduating this year. Older brother arrested in jail. So yeah, it's that typical black story that you expect in South Africa. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, and what are you studying?
Right now I'm doing a BA General, majoring in psychology and literature.
Okay, interesting. Nice to meet you.
Hi everyone, my name is Reese Hunnick. I'm 17 years old and I go to St David's Mary Sananda in Sandton. I'm currently in Matric and I live in Johannesburg North near Fourways. I've pretty much lived there since I was 6 when I moved from Durban. And this year I was on the Johannesburg Junior Council. I'm not sure if you guys know about it, but it's an initiative of 84 students from grade 11 who come together and do charity work within our community just to give back in any way we can in a social, physical level. So that's my story.
Okay, and what are your plans next year?
I would like to head to either UCT, Stellenbosch, or I would like to possibly go to the Netherlands. My dad's from Holland, so I was hoping to study PP or political science.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you cold?
No.
Okay.
Just taking a look at where I am.
Oh, that's always important. Okay.
They're watching now.
Oh, Jamie from next door is definitely watching. I don't know if there's anyone from London. They've been very quiet the whole day. So myself, I have a research company, and this is what I do. I speak to people about all kinds of topics, mostly market research, but this is a special one because it's a social study. It's something that can really make a difference. Now, I'm a mom of 2 girls. I'm turning 40 next month. And I am I love living in South Africa. Okay, so this is a big question. The question is, which aspects of life in your culture are working really well and which are not really working well?
What do you mean in culture?
What do you understand under culture?
Culture as in South Africa in general, or cultural as in personally your culture context?
Okay, so in South Africa, if I talk culture, we have to define it. There's not one culture that is culture. Okay.
We're literally the melting pot.
Yeah. Okay. What do you associate with more? Do you associate with I'm South African, or do you associate with I don't know whatever else you might associate with?
Personally, I go with African, my tribe, I'm Zulu.
Yeah.
So that's my culture, the Zulu culture.
Zulu culture, perfect.
I go with South African because both of my parents are mixed. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I think I also go with just a South African because I feel that growing up in obviously a predominantly white community, you have different cultures from in terms of black people, Indian people, but I think that it's difficult coming as a foreigner where you try to identify your own culture, so you kind of have to adopt another one, and I've not adopted being a South African, I was born a South African, and that's how I identify now.
Yeah.
I think this is a very interesting question because growing up I was literally half white, half Indian. So my father's Bulgarian, my mother's Indian. So I think, especially when I moved overseas, people keep asking me what I am. I have 2 passports, but I identify as South African.
Okay.
That's it.
And you were born here?
Yeah.
Okay. Very interesting. So, within that definition, which parts of your culture are working really well and which are not working well?
I'd say at the moment, I'd say hatred towards one another as a part that isn't working well. Just like respect to other people. You get all types of violence within our culture. You get violence from one culture to another culture, violence from our culture to other cultures, outside cultures, violence to women within our culture. So I think that it's basically just that hatred that isn't working at the moment.
Okay.
I think in our culture we have a big problem with jealousy. I don't know why. I think the root cause of most of our problems is jealousy, racism, a lot of other things. Let's put it like that. Let's not have a big conversation. But I think one of the main problems in our culture is jealousy. And actually, if you ask me, I don't think that's necessarily influenced by things in our culture. I think it's influenced by external things that make us again jealous of that, which create different problems within society.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's competition. Competition is a very big problem because someone would be progressing faster than someone else, and someone would be upset about that. You know, really jealous, and it would even get to a point where they would, I don't know, poison the food or get to a point of killing someone just because of competition. You know. Yeah.
I think within my culture, the one thing that exists is the supernatural world, and within that same culture, there's also religion, and I feel that in those two spaces, one thing that is always promoted or normalized is poverty, and I think that's my biggest problem with my culture, regardless of the fact that you're tribalistic and all these other factors, the entitlement men have to women, and all these other factors. I just think the normalization of poverty has become so great that it seems like it's okay, if it's God's plan, if this is what the ancestors want for you, then it's okay. And I think that's my biggest issue with my culture. Other than that, what else? I don't know about it.
What is working well?
I think what's working well is being a South African. South African culture's pride of being a South African. I mean, a lot of people who are leaving the country and everything. We've got lots of initiatives like I'm Staying, and I mean, you've got our rugby captain, Siya Kolisi, going up and giving one of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life, And I think that does more work than any politician's done, where just pride of being who you are, where you're from. So I think it's working well.
Okay.
I think being Zulu, or just, I guess you can make quite loads of money from it. The entertainment industry in South Africa is mainly, Zulu, and so you can make money from it. It's good from that perspective. I think that works well because I am a Zulu, and I can act, I can, perform. I think I'm an entertainer, so the fact that I'm Zulu, I guess, works well. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
I find it very difficult to answer this question.
Okay. Why is it difficult to answer?
Because I don't know what the definition of well is. I don't know how far standards have dropped for us to say something is good, especially because I've lived overseas. So I think I'd rather not give an answer because it's going to be very shallow and stupid. But
no, but I mean, you're here. We are asking these questions. You have to answer.
Okay.
Or you have to make.
I think. Let's say the quality of our agriculture is very good compared to places around the world. The quality of the food, the quality of life that we have here on average is much better than anywhere else in the world, especially for the amount of money we pay for it.
And if you say quality of life is better, how do you define quality of life?
Okay, so let's put it like this. In China, for the same amount of money you can buy my house with, you can buy an apartment with that's the size of my kitchen. Right? So I lived in China, and basically the amount of money that you spend here, you have to times it by 2. Right? So for the value that you get here, right, the relative value that you get here is better than there in most aspects of daily living, bar transportation and services. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Okay. So it's easier here to afford living a good life, or to have a big house and to have healthy.
Possibly disagree.
I highly disagree.
Okay.
Okay. So let me put it like this. Right? Let's take our climate, our social climate. Right? Your minimum wage in South Africa is X amount of money. With that X amount of money in China, you wouldn't even be able to buy food for a month for a family of 4, right? Or a family of 2, or a family of 3. Now, there are people in China that are living in as well, like squatter camps or whatever, right? But I guarantee you that your general quality of life here is better than there. Because when you look at other countries, you don't see the same way we try to hide our informal settlements and our toxic water and all of that stuff, right? The same way we try and hide it, they're doing the same thing, right? But I've been everywhere. I've been to Europe, I've been to Asia, I've been everywhere, right? I've seen exactly what's going on. The quality of life in general is here, but specifically to how we live in terms of our housing and the quality of our food. Everything else, yes, is debatable.
Okay. So, in discussions like this, we sometimes do disagree because we have different perspectives, and that's absolutely fine. The reason we're having a group and not an individual interview is that we want to hear from different perspectives. So do you have a different perspective on this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily believe you can put the fact that you can have that something is more expensive then constitute to say that it's a better life. I mean, South Africa is, firstly, I think the perspective, the point that you're coming from is from a point of privilege, and I think we know that South Africa is by far the most unequal country in the world. We have a Gini coefficient of 0.6, and I think if you just go through if you go right here in Joburg, near our own sites, so we find people living in shacks, people in crowded places. Just down the road to Alexandra, there's all these impoverished places where people literally have nothing. They literally live in a shack this small. In a room like this, you'll find that 20 people are living here.
Have you been to Nigeria or Ghana and seen people who don't have water that have to walk 20 kilometers just to get water?
We have the same issues in South Africa.
Everywhere has the same issues.
Exactly. So you cannot say.
What I'm talking about is from my experience.
My point exactly. Hence I said you are coming from a point of privilege. That's why it may be different from what someone else may experience. And hence why I can't agree with that perhaps living in China may be better than South Africa. I mean, living in South Africa may be better than in China.
So, if we had to try and think what should be done to improve these issues, whatever they may be, things that you're not, that could obviously be improved, like the jealousy we talked about, inequality, poor quality of life, whatever. How do we improve these issues?
I think it boils down to accessibility, especially when it comes to education. I believe a lot in education, and I believe that knowing more enables you to do more in life and expands your opportunities in life. And I think with schools in general, the schools that we have in South Africa, they are the worst of the worst. You find maths teachers, for example, one of the biggest issues we have in South Africa is mathematics. The statistics when it comes to mathematics are bad. I think less than 30% of matric students accumulated 50% and above for mathematics, and that's mathematics, not mathematics literacy. Like when it comes to education in South Africa, what children are being taught is really bad, and I think that firstly our teachers in schools, we need quality educators, we need quality teachers. I think the university degree, especially with education, should definitely be changed. We need, if you go to certain schools, perhaps maybe private schools, you'll find that physical science teacher holds a BSc in physics and then did a PGCE, I think that's what they call, to become educators.
Postgraduate certificate.
Yeah, to be an educator. Whereas the rest of the schools in South Africa, we don't have that. You find that a teacher doesn't even know what they're teaching you about. They're telling you that X times X is this, but they can't give you exactly. It's that, and that's just that.
Okay, so the quality of education is an issue. Do you think are there any major concerns that at a global level needs real urgent attention?
For South Africa?
No, and on a global level, what are the big, if we have to zoom out, what are the big issues?
I think personally from my side it's a lack of accountability. where you always have, like you say, you have, in every single country, you can put a country into a box. You put it into, it has this big city, it has these amount of people, and with some countries it's easier than others. I think that, for example, South Africa has 10 boxes, which you can't even put most of our stuff into, because everyone's so different. And I think that what happens on a global scale is when problems come about, when people do something wrong, I think that there's a huge lack of accountability where people will, first of all, not admit to it, and second of all, will say, I'm not going to fix it because someone else can. So it's that act of lack of accountability and laziness where people aren't actually getting up and doing the simple things, the little things right, where you see a piece of litter on the ground. I mean, you drive around our city streets, you drive around any city street in the world, and you see pieces of paper lying over the ground. We have such a polluted earth, and I think that it just starts with one single person picking up a single piece of paper, and just by that you've started something.
So leadership.
Yeah.
Junior?
Yes, ma'am.
Big global concerns that need attention urgently.
Oh, well, I can say education as well, because what he was saying is that it's very important. I just wish that there was such an opportunity like other countries where South Africa could give free education, especially to unprivileged backgrounds, because those type of people don't have the money to pay. So, which would open a lot of opportunities for them as well to accumulate all these. So I think education is very highly important.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest problems that we're going to have in the next 10 years is what are we going to do with all the youth that are getting educated but there's no work. See, for example, one of the biggest problems, I think it is in UN SDG is youth unemployment. I mean, as someone who just graduated from university, it's not like I can't find a job, but I can see that there's not an abundance of jobs out of there anyway. Now I need to ask the question to you. If you're focused on getting educated, but there's nowhere for you to put your skills, you're going to be having a more intelligent version of where we currently are. If there's no money in the economy, if this economy is in debt, that economy is in debt, and our economy is in debt, there is no money to have businesses to employ you. So the smarter you are, the more debt you're going to keep putting yourself into unless the education is free. The bigger the problem you're going to cause. Because you're going to have the same version of what is happening now, but a much more educated version of it. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's what I'm sure. Yeah. So let's.
I disagree.
Okay.
Sorry. Because I believe that, yes, true, I get what you're saying, but you've kind of boxed education into perhaps one kind of category, into the university degree, and that's education. And I feel that when people are more educated, they are more able to create businesses themselves. We're able to participate in the fourth industrial revolution, and through that, we're also able to create more jobs and, in poverty.
Can I ask a question? You said you come from Soweto and you're picking on me because you think I'm more privileged than you, which is fine. When you get out of university and you want to start a business, but you have no money, what are you going to do?
What am I going to do?
You have all of your education, but you have no money. What are you going to do?
So that's the thing. I guess.
How does education magically give you money? Because for a business to start, you need capital input.
Yes,
from capital input, you can.
Yes, you need capital, and you can work your way to either.
When you have no job when you leave university, which is a statistical probability for about 49% of people, right? If that's a coin toss.
Thing is, for example, as you know.
So let me stop this discussion. I want to know if we, because I have so much to get through.
There's a lot of conflicting opinions.
Yeah, no, but that's good. That's why we're here in the group. So I want us to think that 25 years from now, the UN turns 100 years old. So it's a big milestone, and there's 25 years left. So what would you say, what would your ideal world look like 25 years from now? So that's what, 2045. Okay, so if you wake up that day, that morning, what does the world look like ideally?
I think leadership in African countries across the world. Maybe people who are about the youth, maybe, or let's say people having leadership that is about 30 to 50 years, people that are our age. Health, access to education, free education, definitely. Being great participants of the fourth industrial revolution. I guess
Okay.
poverty.
Access to services,
Yeah.
economically active,
Yeah.
leadership positions, yeah.
I
Ideal world.
I think the ideal world will be for me where, firstly, there's one currency, right? Then there's no nuclear weapons at all. So no country can go and try and dominate another country just based on force. It needs to be all economic or contribution based. As well as also everyone needs to have clean water. Everyone deserves access to clean water. Everyone deserves access to electricity and equity. People need to have equal opportunities all around. Doesn't matter where you're from, what you've done. If you're the best, that's where you deserve to be. Doesn't matter whether you're white, nothing, right? People all deserve to be treated equally, no matter what. Also, I think in an ideal world, also there needs to stop being like there needs to stop also being like religious conflicts as well. So people need to just accept each other for the way that they are, which I know that will happen, but that's the ideal
That's
picture.
the ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add? Junior Reese?
I think they put everything in a nutshell.
Okay.
I would just like to just put up the point where, you know, I'd still like to have my world here in 25 years. I would still like to have my world here in the next 250 years. I think it's all about that
healthy earth.
Healthy earth. We only have one, you know. It's all about that sustainable future where I know we have a lot of problems on the earth, which we need to get to immediately. It's something that's getting to a point where it's becoming very difficult. But I think the number one problem right now is with everyone's lips. I mean, you've got so much slacktivism at the moment where someone says one life equals $1 to support the koalas, you know.
Yeah.
But
what is it? Slacktivism?
Slacktivism, yes. It's when a person puts it on social media but does really nothing about it. So all they really do is just spread the news and continue to spread the news, but who are they spreading it to? You know. So I would just like to have clean energy, a world which is renewable enough to sustain itself in the long run, so that we have more time to solve these problems which everyone's talking about. You know, because it's all good and well trying to solve these problems, but if you don't have a base to do it or a place to do it, you're not going to get anywhere.
Okay. So, if you had to describe a day in that world you envision 25 years from now, how would you see yourself going through a day? What would your day look like?
Wake up in my house, look out my window, and there's no wall or electric fence.
Okay.
Right? Go to my wife, take my kid to school, go to do whatever I'm doing, and not live in fear. Not live in fear that I'm damaging, that we're damaging the environment. Not live in fear that I'm going to be robbed. Not live in fear at all. I just want us to achieve. Basically, I want us to become the best version of the human race possible, mitigating, removing all of the negative external influences on us that age us and how do you call it? Make us sick, if you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add that's missing from that picture?
Unity. Yeah. Unity, definitely.
Okay, social cohesion, people not hating each other. Okay.
Sounds very communist, but everyone equal, to be honest. I'm very about that, where I think that it comes to a point where obviously capitalism is a very difficult thing because a lot of people prosper, well, a small portion of people prosper, and then a lot of people are suffering. So I would like to see a world where everyone can wake up, and everyone can brush their teeth, everyone can take their kids to school.
Yeah. Okay, so how do science and technology impact everyday life?
Well, I think technology is the easier answer. I mean, we have little portal on our phone where it has every single answer you could possibly want, you know. So I think it's the access to information, certainly on a technological level, is absolutely, it's instant, you know. I mean, I could probably take out my phone and Google that question and get a better answer. You know?
It'll allow us to expand our knowledge exponentially. That I think is the main influencing factor.
Yeah. Do you think all people are treated fairly and equally?
No.
So who are not treated fairly and equally? Just name, or come up with a list of groups of people who are not.
It's top of the list. I think it's black women.
Black women. What else?
I think it's just in terms of the equality hierarchy, if I can put it that way. I feel that there's firstly the gender division, male and female. You know, males are treated more superior to females, and then there's the race. You know, there's the black, which is at the bottom of the barrel. There's the coloreds, there's the Indians, and then there's the white people. You understand? So
is that still the case?
Yeah, true. It still is the case. It's still some of the things we experience in schools. I mean, last year, a white lecturer was giving white kids a different scope versus the scope for the test versus what they're giving to the rest of the kids.
No whites, yeah.
So yeah, so that
the
is
language
is
the reason the language of instruction, do you think? Is it different lecturers?
Pardon?
Was it different lecturers in different classes and the white lecturer gave?
No, so yes, the white lecturer, so for a certain module, like commercial law, the white lecturer gave the white kids the exact scope to say that, listen, this is what you need to know, and then the black kids gave them a complete, the rest of the kids.
But it wasn't the same lecturer that did it to...
No, it was the same lecturer.
Oh, really?
Giving, yes, people, and that is still something that we experience to date. It's still, so equality, it's not something that we can say we have in South Africa, because...
So I'm trying to think of the groups that are being discriminated or that are not treated equally and fairly. So we've got black women.
I mean, black women, people of color, outsiders, people who come from different countries. I mean, xenophobia is terrible. Xenophobia is one of the worst problems we have in this country, even though it's a long list. You know, I think the list can go on. You know, like you said, it's just a hierarchy of how badly we're treated with regards to who you are.
True. Any other groups?
I don't disagree with anything said.
Disabled
people,
absolutely. Mentally ill people, absolutely. Such as
gay people, the LGBTQI. The list is endless.
And how do countries work with one another?
I think they look at what is the most beneficial to their country, and then they just decide that that's where their alliance lies, and it's very fluid depending on the situation.
Yeah.
If you just look at China with the whole African continent, I mean, after everything came out, Mao, everything happened there. China pumps in a whole bunch of money. They build a dam or a road, and then the only stipulations that they get all the contracts to do mining and to get all the future investment and all the future building companies. So I think that anything where they build something new and shiny and it looks amazing to people, and then they benefit. So it's like putting in 2 rand and getting out 100. You know, like I said, anything's more beneficial. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, and also I think it goes down again to inequality, because you find that, for example, this new virus, the coronavirus, there was a video the other day, which was yesterday, I think, where I saw, I think this Chinese who flew to South Africa and just, walked in, just, they're not checked anything. This is when we and you find that now, I think was it somewhere in Europe, they've kind of stopped all flights from like Hong Kong to Delhi. So you kind of see that, us working with one another, as they say, it's more about how it benefits them and less of us.
You know why? Because we have less to offer them than they have to offer us.
But they do take our minerals.
Yeah, but they buy our minerals, they don't take our minerals.
For cheap.
It doesn't matter, that's the pre-agreed upon price. You can't blame them for doing something that we accept and let them do.
I understand where you're coming from, but it's kind of like not teaching a kid what gold is and then giving him a shorter amount of a smaller price for gold. It happens with every single day in South Africa. The Zamazana is selling the gold that they find for a harshly reduced price to manufacturers because that's all that they can get, that's what they need, you know?
So if I said I can buy copper from South Africa or Zimbabwe, but I can get it cheaper from Zimbabwe.
Of course you're going to go to Zimbabwe. No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. Okay, like it doesn't help us in any way. It makes sense for them. I just don't think it's the ethical way to do things.
So what's the point of China paying more to Anglo Rand? Not Anglo Rand. Anglo Gold. How is that going to affect the economy in South Africa?
It doesn't affect the economy. It's the fact that we could have gotten more for it. I think that.
But who's going to get more? It's not going to come to you. It's going to come to the company that's mining the mineral. No. It's never going to make its way here ever. That amount of money, whether they get 5 Rand or 10 Rand, the only way it's going to come is in the tax. And if those companies are incorporated out of South Africa, we're not going to get that tax anyway. So there's no point of saying that they're screwing us when we're literally.
I see what you're saying, but it is all in hindsight. I have to admit it. I'm saying this completely looking away from the situation. You know, I'm not going to pretend like I'm a gold expert at all. Yeah. You know, I'm not going to pretend like I am. I'm not going to say I am. Just from the point of view where I'm looking at it, it looks like we are getting a bad deal.
Okay, but would you rather sell something for 2 Rand and sell it and make 2 Rand profit, or sell nothing for 0 Rand and make nothing?
Of course, you'd rather sell it for the 2 Rand.
It's not like they're knocking on our doors and then leveraging us into buying it at that price. We're accepting it because there's nothing better. That's how life works. That's how the economy works. I'm not trying to fight. I'm just trying to say I understand how
I understand completely where you're coming from. Yeah, no dispute on that.
So if there are many things wrong in this world.
Yeah.
Let's say we don't do anything about it, and for the next 25 years we just keep on going down this road, the same road. We're not addressing any of the global challenges. What kind of world will we live in 25 years? What will the world look like?
Can I be honest? It may deviate slightly from this, but it is a little bit relevant. I think that I'm going to use freedom of speech as an example. I think that the way things are going, if it's not controlled tighter, right? Things are going to get worse firstly. Because this guy with his opinion is going to clash with this guy with his opinion. And the deeper the opinion goes, the more they disagree. The more they disagree, there's more hate. More hate, there's more conflict. So now if you ask me, this is a very, very difficult opinion to swallow. I think freedom of speech should be very tightly controlled. Because freedom of speech leads to divides in society, and divides in society leads to violence and other problems. I'm not saying freedom of speech isn't good, I'm just saying looking at it from that perspective, the deeper the hole goes, the deeper the problem as well.
So the question is, if we don't do anything about what's wrong with the world, what kind of world do we end up with in 25 years?
This is where I was going. So a place that gets so consumed in what it is that it just becomes worse all around. So for example, that was pretty much the only example I can think of right now. But the more people go into and keep on doing what they're doing that's wrong, or keep on doing what they're doing that's causing conflict, it's just going to get worse and worse. So for example, if South Africa doesn't do something very quickly, we're going to run out of water. Okay? If South Africa doesn't do anything, our economy is going to go down. Right? So if we continue doing what we're doing, we're just going to have a more severe or worse version of really what's going on. Because if there is some improvement, it's not being seen.
Yeah. So do you think if we continue on this road, that your children and grandchildren will have more or fewer opportunities than you had?
Fewer.
Okay, and would they be better off or worse off, do you think, when it comes to education?
Sorry, yeah. No? I understood the answer across the board, but coming from a community of obviously white people, predominantly white, I'd say 95% white, I would say that depending on the place where they end up, due to the color of their skin, they could have more opportunities. I'm not saying it's a definite, But I'm saying that should the right opportunities be given to them, should everything go the way that it's supposed to for their specific circumstance, I think that
If
they
their
could have
plan
opportunities.
goes according
Yes,
to
yeah,
plan.
yeah. And that's simply due to the race that they are.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Okay. So it's not one answer fits all.
No, absolutely. I think every answer can be tailored. I mean, he could give you a different answer, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a general answer.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Can I bring the next?
Okay. That's fine. It's very late.
The next person.
Hello. You're very late. My dear. You are almost missed it. You blinked, you would have missed it.
Traffic.
Honestly, okay, well, welcome. You are welcome to join. So we are talking about the world, things that are wrong with the world, and how to fix it. Okay? This is basically what we're talking about. So, yeah, this is everybody. You can just see their names. What is your name?
My name is P.
Pila. And where are you from?
I'm from Soweto, Zulana.
Okay. And did you come from there now?
Yeah.
Okay. And you left at 5?
Yeah. I live far, very far from here.
I stayed further.
Ooh.
What's your name?
And what do you do? Are you a student? Are you
no.
working?
I'm self-employed.
Okay.
Sell snacks, something like that.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to have your voice, different voice from what we have so far. So we've got an IT guy.
Your name?
My name is Yanni. Sorry, Yanni. Yeah, I should have a name tag like that. It's Yanni. And I'm a researcher. So we have an IT intern here.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a agricultural entrepreneur. And we have a, what are you saying, a psychologist in
Psychologist.
making. And Reese is a
Schoolboy.
schoolboy, yeah.
Sorry, I'm not that great.
It's a great mix of people. So my question is, if we think 25 years from now and we do nothing about what is wrong with the world, would our kids have, when it comes to jobs and education, would they have better or worse opportunities?
Yeah, much worse.
Definitely much
Worse, okay. And do you expect to live in a less or more healthy natural environment?
I prefer health.
No,
Healthy.
no, obviously, but we're saying, do you think the world is going to be more healthy by itself?
No.
I think. What do you mean by itself?
So, if we don't do anything about what's wrong
From now?
Yeah, from now, do you think we're going to go? We'll have a healthy environment or not?
No.
Okay.
I think everyone will agree on that.
I think it's already, if you look at trends in history and that continue happening, I mean, if you look at places like Hillbrow, Berea, and the CBD, how dirty and overpopulated that place is alone.
Yeah.
Oh my word. Hello.
Do we have
Good
a
evening.
chair?
Oh, we don't have a chair for you. Just ask for a chair.
So yeah, I just think places are going to be getting more like that.
Yeah.
And it's going to now spread. It's going to move to Sandton, it's going to move to Four Ways, it's going to move to Cape Town, it's going to move. And you know, there's what we, so I once studied a BSc in urban regional planning.
Can you come sit on this side, please?
And we learned about people called NIMBYs, which is called
Break here, bro.
Outside.
which is not in my backyard. And those are people who built the informal settlements wherever. So I feel that that's exactly what's going to happen. We are going to feel entitled that we're not getting access to anything, so we're going to force ourselves into places that we do not belong, into places where we are being marginalized. So for example, the Sandtons, if you're staying in Soweto, if you're working in Sandton, you need to take 2 taxis today, which might cost about 50 rand. So what are you doing now? You're going to build your own shack in Sandhurst. Yeah, even in Sandhurst, because I think that Alexandria is already overpopulated, so we can now move.
You're just
to other
making a
places.
plan.
Yeah.
You're solving a problem.
Now you don't have a toilet, you know, so I think it's going with.
Yeah, I hear you. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Lunga Hamzela.
Okay, nice to meet you. Welcome. Where are you from?
I'm from Soweto.
Okay. And what do you do?
I do self-employed,
Uh-huh.
then part-time basis, like I help with the children with their homeworks, then soccer team that we go there.
Okay,
Oh, cool.
cool. Nice to meet you. Okay, so I've got some a list of a list of 6 things that are basically big issues. So I would want us to look at this list of 6 things and say, which of these do I identify as having a significant impact on the future that I want for myself?
Like top 1 to 6.
I'm going to put them up.
Okay.
We'll just read
Oh,
through
is that the
them.
thing we weren't supposed to see?
Yeah. And then, yeah, please. And then, let's pick one that we say has a significant impact on the future that I want to create, or that I hope for. So, we have climate change and environmental issues, then we have poverty and inequality, we have new technology, we have population changes. That's anything people moving from like rural areas into the cities. It's all about how the population grows. Are people getting older longer, or are they living longer, or maybe dying earlier? Do we have lots of like young people? Security threats, so war and crime and violence, xenophobia, those kind of things, cyber attacks. And then lastly, a breakdown of trust between governments and people. So which of these, I know all of them are big issues, all of them have some kind of impact, but if we have to pick one that has like a big impact significantly on the future that you want, which one would you pick?
We don't have to agree, right?
No? So just read through them and if you could each think of which one.
Poverty.
So which one has a big impact on your life, do you think, and on your future? New technology, okay. And someone said poverty and inequality.
Climate change.
Climate.
I agree.
Climate, okay.
And population.
Population changes, okay.
Climate change.
Climate change. Environment.
Can I also just expand upon that for a second?
Uh-huh.
I said earlier that we obviously need to get behind it because we need a place to change everything else that's happening around us. But I would actually like to change what I said a bit earlier because I've been thinking about it a bit more. Where I think that what I said was fundamentally correct, but I think that we need to be able to stand together first. We need to be able to be one people, to understand each other and to understand who the people around us are in order to be unified so that we can attack this as a team, as a unit. You know?
Yeah, I think one problem with South Africa is that we all are separated, hierarchies and whatever. And I think we have more power than the government, that is without a doubt. But that power only comes when we are united. I'm not sure which country it was, a year or 2 ago, or 3 or 4, I'm not sure. They actually all literally shut down the entire country, I think striked. I'm not sure about Egypt. Yeah, I think it was Egypt, and they removed, the president. And I think we have the power. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
I think his point is very important, that unity and yeah.
Alright, so people have power that will stand together.
True.
Okay, good.
But I wouldn't change my answer.
So climate change is the biggest fundamental. So we've got a few. I think climate change sounds like the biggest one around the table.
So.
The one with the most votes.
I think population changes.
Okay, you also said population changes. Why?
Because the more people come about, the more electricity you're going to need, the more carbon dioxide you're going to need, the more animals you're going to need, the less space you have. So the more people adds to the bigger problem, because if things are not changing steadily or quickly, you're just going to amplify the problem because more people are going to be contributing to the same problem that already exists. And then also there are going to be less jobs, there's going to be less money going around, and it's going to get worse because the people are the thing that controls most of the other things, or the other things are reliant on the people, and add more people to that with more problems. It's going to fuel everything else.
It amplifies everything. I understand. Okay.
For me, new technology, especially artificial intelligence, it takes away a lot of jobs, especially for a country like us, which is developing.
not be replaced by a robot if you're working at McDonald's and it's someone that's
And again, I think that shows. Oh, so yeah, no, I think that shows the different perspectives of the table. You know, because like I'm sitting and I think artificial intelligence is so cool. You know, it's such an interesting thing. I'd love to be part of this. I'd love to work on it. And then I think of the flip side, which has just been shown to me, where jobs are being taken away. You know, and I think that just shows such an interesting country we have. You know, where we've got guys sitting at a table with such different opinions. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's why we have you here. So the UN, the head of the UN is the Secretary General. So if we had to give him advice on where to prioritize his focus to manage these issues, where would you advise him to start? What are the most important, most fundamental issues that we need to address?
I think if we look at number 2, poverty and inequality, it's very vital because it is what leads and what causes for there to be 4 and 1. So if I'm in the rural area, I don't have access to university, I don't have access to schools, I don't have access to anything, which means I'm going to be moving to Joburg, which means I'm going to be populating all over Joburg, going to be overpopulated. And hence, you know, if there's a lot of us obviously here, cars, etc., climate change and environmental issues, I think those are just occurred. So I think poverty and inequality are one major concern, because if that is dealt with, then we'll not have, or the other issues that I believe will reduce, including security threats. Yeah,
very, very much linked.
Okay.
I think new technology is what you should focus on. Because the more accurate data you have about every aspect of life, the better your decisions will be in the long term. You will sacrifice a little bit longer, but that's what people are doing. The more accurately your data can be quantified, the better your decision making is. The better the decision making is, the better each and everything will.
I agree.
So, such good answers from this group. I'm really impressed. I'm very happy. Thank you. So now I want to talk about how we bridge. So we've talked about where we would love to see the world be, what we would like to see in our ideal world 25 years from now. And we've talked about what will happen if we don't do anything. So now I want to talk about how we actually bridge that gap. How do we make sure that we end up with the ideal world and not the disaster of a world? So what can you do as an individual to create the world that you want? Oh, he's chewing. Anyone else?
Well, as an individual.
Let's hear from these 2 guys that have just joined us.
For me, I think we need to start from the young generation, because they are the ones who are going to lead us from the future. So if you can teach the young ones how to, let's say, use technology from the young age, they can learn more things about that, and then they can create even greater ideas than us. So I think and security threats will be safe there, because children will know how to follow our rules and they will know how to follow how to live. So I think for me we must start from the young age. Yeah.
What can you do now as an individual to create the world that you want?
Oh, yeah, go, please, you should go. Okay. Again. And then going back to the point that I made earlier, where it's about the simple things, doing the things that you can immediately do now when they're important, and not leaving them around to sit there and get worse. So again, I'm going to use the same analogy of picking up the piece of paper, you know, stopping the car for the old lady to walk across the street. You know, it's these tiny little things that people think are so insignificant, but they all add up.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that.
Okay. So whatever is in front of you within your circle of interest, you do that. Okay. Good. Yeah.
I think we need to generally invest in the current youth as the students. I think what I do, is help students with, university, getting into university, staying into university, and the university environment is not easy, so you know there's a lot of struggles that are there. So I think we should just invest in that. You know, students are hungry out there. We need to also, you know, I think we need to have a tax specifically for businesses. You know, as you're saying, once you finish school, you know, there's that you want to start a business or whatever. What funding do you have? You find that as a black child, you don't even have collateral to say that, you know, you can use my apartment as take my apartment as collateral, because you don't have that kind of privilege. You most probably don't even have a house back at home. The house you have was passed on from your great-great-grandmother, which she got for 500 rand before apartheid. And so we need to kind of invest in that. So that's what I try to do, but unfortunately I'm only one person and there's not much I can do. But I believe that, hence I thought it's a difficult question to ask what we can do individually, because I totally and completely believe in unity. If we work together, we can combat a number of these things, you know, like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are different people that can take ownership of change. Government, the UN, civil society, which is really just groups of people living together, or people who share an interest, or who are organized around an organization, individuals, businesses. So who has to take action to manage these things?
I think it's the government.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything has to start with the government.
Why the government?
Because they're in control of everything.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think
Who has to take action?
every organization needs to do the best it can for its community. Every organization. So the government needs to take accountability and run the country properly. Right? Businesses need to contribute to their society as well. We as people, as taxpayers, as whatever, need to do whatever we can. So I don't think the onus is on one specific entity, because we all created this problem together. But by and large, I think it falls down to the government to regulate it in such a way that that becomes the norm.
Yeah, definitely I agree with you. I don't think
So all of these players have a role to play,
Yeah.
and we need regulation.
And regulation and accountability.
Yeah.
We need infrastructure that can track, not just SARS looking at us and saying X, Y, and Z, or people looking at accounts. We need people to say, okay, you need to do this in your business. Like what did they call it? CSR. We need to be. I think certain companies need to have a CSR, right?
Yeah.
They can implement that all around. For every single business. It doesn't matter how big or how small. They can do that even. But you get what I'm saying. I don't want to waste my time.
Absolutely. So what forms of action and collaboration might be needed at the local, national, international levels? So collaboration between government, or between different entities locally, or maybe on a national level, the whole of South Africa, or internationally?
I think we need to stop. Okay, this is going to sound very weird. I think we need to stop valuing our resources. Now I'll explain. Okay. Let's say the coronavirus, right? Let's say there's a specific strain of plant that comes from South Africa that can cure the virus. Now South Africa would probably want to sell it instead of give it away for free. So what I would say is we need to stop valuing things that work towards the greater good and work together. I don't know if this makes sense. Like, take away the value from something so that it's available to make society a better place.
Like patents and things as well.
Patents maybe if it's applicable to something that has relevance to the greater good, right? But I think the biggest problem is value. So someone will say, okay, you need this to help us, but it's going to cost you this much. But I can't afford to give you this much, so I'm not going to give it to you. Or I can't afford to. But you know what I'm saying? They need to take the value away from the commodity that can basically improve living in general. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, makes sense.
Or they can moderate the value more fairly of
something everyone needs should be available fairly.
Yeah.
Okay. And what might the role of the UN be and other international organizations in facilitating this?
Well, the UN has a lot of lobbying power. I mean, for example, if we need infrastructure, for example, the UN can commission a specific country that's a specialist in that to provide help for the places that need it, instead of us having to go to China and then becoming indebted to them indirectly because we need the help. We need to stop looking at how much we can get and all start looking at how much we can give each other. I know that is very in an ideal world, but we need to stop looking at the value of things and start understanding the value of people, right? We all live in the same world, we all have the same amount of resources. If we keep putting value on it, then an exchange is not going to happen because someone is always going to feel cheated, or it's not fluid enough for us to use everything we want to create the best version of what we have.
Yeah.
I also think that the UN is there to be like the giant, on what you're saying, it's like there to be the giant middleman between everything. You know, we're not asking the UN to go to places of disease and take away the disease. We're asking them to provide platforms and ventures and possibilities in which people can get up and do what they need to do. You know, so you're first of all asking for obviously global investment. You're asking for everyone to do their part. It's been brought on this table a lot. And you're asking for the UN to be that guiding force, you know, to put everyone together to focus on a certain thing, to work together.
And make them accountable to it.
Accountability. Accountability as well.
Okay. So I just want to test quickly, who of you have heard of something called the Sustainable Development Goals?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So some of you have. All right. So maybe some haven't. So,
No, there's what, 17 or something like that.
17.
Yeah, 17, yeah, right.
Oh, they're not over there. They're over there.
Oh, that's
so David's going to have to read for us because we can't read. Yeah. So the idea here is that sorry, that's just So I want us to read through them. So basically, just so that we're all on the same page, in 2015, promises were made at the UN by 193 world leaders, so presidents and prime ministers from 193 countries, including from South Africa, committed to create a future of peace and prosperity on a thriving planet for all people. So that's the plan. So they put a plan in place by all governments around the world to achieve these 17 sustainable goals, sustainable development goals, by the year 2030. So that is 10 years from now, we need to have this in place. Okay? So David's going to read through all of them for us, and I want us to think about the different things we've already discussed tonight. So don't let this skew you. Think about the things we've talked about already that are things that you believe are issues. And then try and identify 3 of those that you think are of immediate concern for you and your family. So he's going to read through them and just try, just remember the number of the ones that immediately.
So we're answering the question on a personal level?
Yes.
Okay.
So for you and your family, which of these are really a big concern?
Okay, number 1, no poverty. 2, zero hunger. 3, good health and well-being. 4, quality education. 5, gender equality. 6, clean water and sanitation. 7, affordable and clean energy. 8, decent work and economic growth. 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. 10, reduced inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below the water. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice and strong institutions. And 17, partnerships for the goals.
Okay. Do you want to go through them again, or have you picked?
I remember the numbers.
Okay. Okay, cool.
I can bring this paper closer.
It's actually, I needed a much bigger version of it. So maybe maybe leave it up there, read through them again. So as he reads, just look at the picture as well, and you can just remember one that you feel is really important for you. Okay? 1,
no poverty. 2, zero hunger. 3, good health and well-being. 4, quality education. 5, gender equality. 6, clean water and sanitation. 7, affordable and clean energy. 8, decent work and economic growth. 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. 10, reduced inequalities. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And 17, partnership for the goals.
Okay, so let's just go around the table.
What was the question again, Mike?
So I want to know which of these are of immediate concern for you and your family.
I think it's number 8.
Decent work and economic growth.
Yeah, decent work. Yeah.
Okay, so decent work and economic growth.
So I went for the first question, one of the 3.
Yeah.
It was 11, 12, and 16.
Okay.
Sustainable cities and communities, a responsible consumption and production, and peace, justice, and strong institutions.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
3, 8, and 9.
Okay, so 3 is good health and well-being. 8 is decent work and economic growth. And?
9.
And 9.
9 is industry, innovation, and infrastructure.
Okay, great. David?
The other guys haven't answered. I just, because I read out loud, I'm not really thinking.
Okay.
For me, it's 3 and 4.
3 and 4 are good health and well-being and quality education.
Yes.
Yeah?
Me, it's 4, 8, and 16.
4 is quality education, 8 is decent work and economic growth, and 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions.
For me personally, it would be number 3, good health and well-being, decent work and economic growth, and then if I'm staying in South Africa, it'll be industry, innovation, and infrastructure.
Okay. So one of them which one do you think stands out across the table?
4 was mentioned a lot.
Yeah, number 4,
And
quality
number 8.
education.
And number 8.
And number 8, the decent work and economic growth. Okay, because those are things that you can use to create more, address more of the other issues, right? So, thinking of number 4, education, and number 8, which is decent work, who has to take action to advance these goals in South Africa? Now we can think of government, businesses, civil society, individual level, on an individual level.
Can we start with 4 first and then move
Yes,
to
let's talk about education first.
For me, the government must take action for education because they know all the rules and they have everything on them. So they are the ones who need to bring good education around our township, because in our township our education is very, very, very low.
Yeah.
So our government must focus more on our townships.
Can I ask a question to you guys? And I do not claim I come from anything, I'm asking you. Is the problem the delivery of education, or is it the facilities that you guys are in when you receive the education? Or is it the textbook? Like, for example, now let me put it like this. Is it the material, is it the space, or is it the delivery of education to the student?
The teacher, the books, or the
classroom.
The teacher. In most cases, it's the teacher. Because most of the teachers are uneducated themselves. And they're educating us with something that they don't even know themselves.
And secondly, textbooks. We need to share textbook each and every time.
You're sharing textbooks.
Yeah, sharing textbooks.
Yeah, study materials.
So now if we look at that, that tells us the government need to intervene. And how will they do that? How should they do that, in my opinion? They should give teachers a minimum salary across the board. Right now, it is not incentivizing for people to become teachers because teachers don't get paid nicely.
Yeah.
The people who are educated enough do not want to be a teacher because they want to earn more. People who teach now are people who either don't have anything else to do or who are passionate about it, and those are the very few people. So government should implement a minimum amount for teachers that's incentivizing enough that other people want to learn to become teachers. See, the problem is you guys, we have what we got, right? Because it's not, a teacher can earn probably 8,000, 9,000 rand a month, 10,000 rand a month, and that's not enough to live, especially in, for example, Sandton or Fourways. And I'm not talking about you guys or anything to do with you. I'm saying make the position more incentivizing, then more people will want to do it. Because there is a need for maths teachers. You'll get employed if you are a maths teacher, but what's the point if it's not going to satisfy you, if you're not going to be earning enough to survive? That's the problem. I don't think it's that there's no teachers, there's no incentivization to become a
To
teacher.
become one, absolutely.
With free education, I think one thing I've noticed is
It's
that
quality education.
quality education. Oh,
But it should be free.
That too.
Wow. I think it's definitely the government that needs to intervene. So for example, if you bring him to maybe events or something, you'd find that on NSFAS, each student gets about 4,200 for accommodation. And I think those numbers are quite great, and I think if our government was willing to actually, instead of giving that amount to privately owned accommodation, instead of them buying those buildings, then that way we've kind of eradicated the problem of students having in access to education due to accommodation. Because now, if they own these buildings, perhaps people who are on SASA, people who can't afford accommodation, can then automatically get access to these buildings, and that equals to access to
So you want to centralise student accommodation, which is when the government takes ownership of it.
Okay, but now hold on. Are universities government-owned entities or are they private-owned entities? Because if they're private-owned entities, okay, so let's look at.
Well, you have private.
You have private and government.
But now, WITS, for example, is that government or private?
Government.
I think it's government.
It's government institution.
Okay, if that's the case, then yes, that's fine. Right, but what happens in the case that the guy doesn't want to sell his building?
Stellenbosch isn't government owned, is it? No?
Is
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
There's 26 universities in South Africa.
I thought it was private too.
No, but it's not. There's 26 universities in South Africa.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, the private, that's the thing. I mean, they make so much money off it, so them having to sell it and all that.
Yeah, but you see, that's the thing now. You're taking away someone's right to own his building because. But you see, that's the thing. It's equality is very difficult. It's there's a very fine line.
Yeah,
because it's not like the government wouldn't want to own it. That's someone else put their money, their work, their this.
Don't get me wrong. What I mean in that is, so for example, NSFAS students or students. So there are students who can afford to pay for the accommodation. The students who have their parents paying for bursaries, whatever they're paying for them, they can then go through these private accommodations that is privately owned.
Okay, but then
when it comes to NSFAS, because the funds are being spent already to pay for these accommodation, and I get what you're saying, but then it's more fair to kind of, if the government then owns the building.
So you're talking about reallocation.
Do you know what's more fair? Is if the government subsidizes the rent. So it gives you a cap and then pays the difference.
Okay.
Which is also not fair because then you have 1,000 rand accommodation, I'll have 15,000 rand accommodation, but we both pay the same. It's not fair, but it's fair. It's not fair to take away someone's hard-earned asset because that's not equity, that's not equality.
Yeah.
But it's fair to say that everyone has the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at the other one. Number 8. So decent work and economic growth.
Yeah.
So whose problem is that one? Or how do we fix that one?
That is completely the government's fault. Now let me offload on you my opinion. Let me offload on you my opinion before we all go, because I think everyone will agree. You get your electricity prices down, you get your fuel levy down, make the country prime it for economic growth, make foreign direct investment a priority, make it attractive. Don't tax us 40% for businesses. Don't make us want to incorporate overseas and then take all the tax money. Most of the companies that are here send all of their money overseas, so they don't have to pay the tax. Lower the tax, lower the interest rate. If you lower the interest rate, you can go get a loan from the bank, and then you can start your business. That is better. Stop raising the price of stuff. Stop raising the tax of stuff. Just you get what I'm saying. Prime the environment. Prime the environment for economic growth. I know it's very difficult to do, but reduce the interest rate so people can borrow to start their own business, right? Once you get the economy going, the economy will revive itself.
Yeah.
Right? Create sustainable transport networks. Create so people can get to work. Make it, for example, ramp up the security so people from overseas that want to travel here are not scared. There's millions of things that they can do to make our environment better
For business.
For businesses.
I did just latch on to one thing he said there, which I slightly disagree with. With the lowering of interest rate from banks, I understand what you're saying completely, where it encourages people to take loans so they can start their own businesses and everything. But then on the flip side of that, you get a lot of people in the country, in the entire globe, who don't pay back those loans.
That's very fair, but remember the Reserve Bank should have built inside of it.
I understand what you're saying completely, but I think from their side, it's without that, without regards to that, it's their way of having like that safety blanket. You know, where eventually when they're paid back, it doesn't matter what happens, they will get their money back and more, so that all their costs were covered. And yeah, that was just one of that ones. Everything else I agree.
Anyone else want to add? How do we address number 8? Decent work and economic growth.
I think just as we are to go, we are moving right into the 4th industrial revolution. I think it makes sense, you know, for employees to be working with, for example, if you notice that McDonald's, what's currently happening is that there are now screens when you're ordering your meals, you don't meet the person there. But there are people that are there to help you. So if we work hand in hand with technology, and yeah, I think the government investing in technology, but also investing in creating an environment where they can coexist, you know, where it's not a tit for tat.
Or one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so these two guys who came in late, I want to just quickly, before I get to my last question, I just want to ask a question to the two of you that the rest have already answered. Can you imagine 25 years from now, that's like 2045, okay? What would your ideal world look like? You can just imagine you wake up that morning, explain to me what your day looks like. What are you doing? What does it look like? Where are you up to? What's going on? 25 years in your ideal.
For me, 25 years later, I expect our economy to be in a better position. Our infrastructure, I expect it to be top notch.
And for yourself, you personally, you wake up where? Where are you? In 25 years. Are you on Mars? Are you in Soweto? Are you
Definitely not in Soweto.
No. Okay, where do you want to be?
Somewhere in those port suburbs. Somewhere there.
So still in South Africa, in Joburg, somewhere in a nice suburb, alright?
Yeah, in a better South Africa, like in a more equal South Africa.
More equal?
Yes, where the government is less corrupt. There's peace.
Peace, good government, good leaders. Okay, great. And you are doing what? What are you doing? We need 25 years. You're waking up in a nice suburb.
I'm having business.
You've got your own business. Okay, cool. How about you?
For me, firstly, when I wake up, I want to wake up in a good, soft bed. Where I know there's fresh air, there's a beach in Cape Town. And yeah, having 2 children in my life, having a happy life, and yeah, able to travel around the world, so I can go. Any time when I wake up, I think I need to go to France, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to have freedom, financial freedom for me.
Yeah.
And my own business.
Okay. Awesome. I hope that happens. So my last question is, what can you do as individuals to advance number 4, quality education, and number 8, decent work and economic growth? What can you do as an individual? Junior, are you still here? Let's hear from you. So what can you do to do that, to affect those 2 things?
Well, I know individually it's really hard to do that, but I know that once we are all united and we all have a common goal, we can actually help out. We can increase number 4 and 8. We can, as long as we are together, and it can happen. It can definitely.
Alright. Anyone else? What can we do on an individual level to to work towards good quality education and decent work and economic growth.
Okay, well, I can contribute. I would say for number 8, I'll start with number 8, pay your taxes, right, firstly. Secondly, create a business that creates jobs, right? Stimulate the economy and also be a good role model.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing society is lacking a lot of, is because we're looking at the wrong thing all the time. But firstly, be a good role model, do what you need to do, pay your taxes, employ, create jobs for other people, and for quality education. I would also say, be a good role model to everyone that you meet. It's very important because I think we're growing up in a very fatherless generation, and people are looking and idolizing other things that they are not necessarily the right thing to be looked at to supplement the thing that they're missing in their lives, right? So you need to be the change you want to see, right? You need to lead by example. One of the biggest problems I've had in my life is everyone that I've looked up to lead me has always in some way come short, because we're not perfect, but the lack of willingness to put the effort in to be better is something that I feel a lot of people need to do, because there's very little accountability in today's day and age. We look at the wrong thing, and that takes us off of the path that we're supposed to be on.
Okay.
With number 4, I think everyone needs to be involved. We need to help out. For example, I'm helping young children with their homeworks after school, so everyone can take as a help one.
Which is fantastic.
Education. Okay.
Then with number 8, I think the government needs to invest in small businesses.
Okay.
That's a good one.
As individuals, I think we need to support small businesses. We need to support South African businesses, and I think we just need to support each other for that economic growth to happen. We need to, for example, a teacher of mine used to tell me in high school that, I'm not sure which one of it is a BP or something, but one of the garages is the petrol garages is a South African-owned company, and he said he only fills out there. So I think we need to do those kind of things, because if we're investing our money back into our country, we're the ones that are benefiting from it.
Okay, great.
I'm always about the small things. I think with number 4 and number 8, it's all about encouragement. And it sounds so small, so insignificant, but like helping a kid with their homework, I think encouraging them to continue just like fighting the good fight, does so much more than people realize. Because when you feel alone, when you're doing something and you feel alone, it becomes a lot harder to do what you need to do. When you're surrounded by people when you surround yourself with the right people who are telling you to continue doing what you're doing, and there will be a bright side to it, I think that you get a lot more results. And just talking on that, the bright side I just described is that we talk a lot about it at school. Obviously, I'm a kid, I have a lot of this life experiences than a lot of people here. But I think that with what was number 8? What exactly again?
It was decent work and economic growth.
So with 4 and 8, I think that it's all about reminding people that there is always a tomorrow, where I think that, especially in school, you see it all the time, where people push for different goals. People push to get 7 distinctions in the trick. They push to get 80% on their test or whatever. And that's such a small example, but what next? People always are planning for today, but not for tomorrow. And I think that's very important.
Awesome. So, we're done with our questions. I just have this little paragraph that I want to read for you from the project team who designed the study, or is in charge of the study. So, thank you for participating today. There's a decade, 10 years left to deliver on these 17 goals for people and the planet. And 2020 is the year we must change course. 5 years into the goals, we have an opportunity and an obligation to shift our trajectory and accelerate progress. And we need everyone to be part of it. A new movement is forming. Citizens, organizations, and leaders everywhere are coming together for a super year of activism to shift the world into a path to deliver the goals by 2030. Anyone can get involved. If your organization or you personally would like to be part of this campaign, please give your contacts to me, and in the coming weeks we'll send you more information like resources and a calendar of key moments and ideas for how you can take part in this. So you don't have to, but if you'd like to have the information, then you can have the information. So,
I just want to close by saying something, not to you.
sure.
If you're in the UN and you're listening to this, come and get me. So many more ideas, and I'm so passionate. I'm so passionate about. I think you can hear me when I speak. So passionate about all of these issues and solving them. I literally spend a large portion of my life thinking about all of this. Right? If you're in the UN and you can hear me, my name is David Apostolov. Find me on Facebook or Instagram. Come and get me, please. I don't know everything, but I want to be part of this process going forward.
Okay, awesome. So I'll put your name on there. Anyone else? Do you want to have the information? You all do.
It's just saying to the UN what he said.
I need 4 million rand. Me a lousy.
It's change.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so
I've got
much.
a small token of appreciation from myself. We're all doing this pro bono, this study, but this, I mean, you don't have to do it pro bono. This is.
I'm here at David.
Thank you so much.
This, yeah. Thank you, guys. Just take it and share it around.
I'm on LinkedIn as well.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope you change the world.
Thanks, man. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was really fun. Thank you.
Yeah, no, you talked about this.
I always like to put it
I like to leave there sometimes.
It's just the perspective that you look at it from.
Yeah, true. No, but you know, as you said, opinions.
Yeah.
It makes the UN hit me up.
Yo, Instagram, Facebook, friend me, add me, whatever you guys want to do. If you want to talk, keep going. Alright, 1 second, brother.
The late ones, you guys, you know this thing about black people doing this? How, guys?
Trophy.
Guys, no. And I stay the furthest here. When in Kale 16, protect me. So I drive. Takes.
So, do you get the information if you want to join?
I'm going to just send it to them. I'm not sure how quick they are and what's going to happen in the
Where's the
world.
information that you said you gave to us? Because I want my. You said that the paragraph at the end there.
Yeah, so they, so I've got all your details obviously
Yeah.
that Alison's team has.
Yeah.
So I'll just send them a spreadsheet with all your details. No, I have it.
Thank you
No, I
so
just
much.
needed to know who wants to share the information.
Thank you so much.
If you could literally pass my name to them.
I know someone who I do actually have a friend, but she's just.
Oh, that's nice.
She won't help you. She's in South Sudan. Yeah, I know. Thanks.
Actually.